What up, though, One Pride? This is the Roar of the Lions UK podcast, the podcast where One Pride goes worldwide. My name is Anthony Fitzpatrick. I'm joined this evening by Ryan McCluskey. It is a Wednesday evening, which can only mean one thing. It is time for your weekly dose of college knowledge. Yes, it is the college football podcast, a fistful of Doll-ison. Ryan, we have just finished the last week of the presumed non-con season. The non-cons are pretty much over now. Some teams still have a couple left to go, but for the most part, we're about to head into conference play. But this week we saw games with 70 points. We saw games with 80 points. We saw games with 90 points. We saw a few games with over 100 points. And we saw one game that resembled a basketball score and ended up with 120 points. There are going to be a lot of defenses and defensive coordinators over the country this week going through the full metal jacket treatment, and they're not going to be liking what they're having to do this week to make up for this.
No, there was some wild games where they kind of just threw the kitchen sink out and everything kind of just went right on one side of the ball and terrible on the other. Made for some very entertaining counters, but I can't imagine that a lot of the staff were too impressed. A lot of them were very relieved to get over the finishing line. Some great football, some terrible football, and some terrible coaching.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are some coaches who are really going to be feeling their seats now. So today we're going to go through a little bit of news first, but then we're just going to dive down into the football because there is a lot to go through. There were quite a few upsets and near upsets and huge scoring games, which are going to take a bit of time to go through this week. And then we're going to take a look at the AP Top 25 rankings for the first time because during non-cons, they can be a little bit half a dozen, one or the other, but now they're starting to form in what's something a little bit more realistic. So we're going to have a look, see who's up there at this moment in time as well. So let's just get the housekeeping out of the way because we've got a lot to do. So Roar of the Lions UK Discord, if you want in on that, then just let us know. We'll fire you across the link. Main podcast, recapping the Arizona Cardinals win this week, which was great. If you've not checked that out yet, please do go do so. Don't forget to like and sub to everything, Twitch, YouTube, all that good stuff. We really appreciate it. The backing really helps us out. We're part of Lions Nation Unite as well, Herman Moore's project to bring together the best in Lions content creators over YouTube into one community for you, the fans. I did my first video for them yesterday. Thank you to all the nice feedback everyone sent over that. Really appreciate that, and you'll see more coming from us in the near future. Don't forget we're an affiliate on Twitch, we're monetized on YouTube, we've got a tip jar, all that good stuff. Would help us that way, great, but we just love having you all in the building to talk college ball first and foremost, and we've got a feedback form as well. So any feedback you have for us, just let us know, and we will take that into account. Right, let's just give a shout out to everyone who's in. Lost Oceans is in the building. Kurt Casbrick is in the building. Brent is in the building. Go Army 3-0. Go Blue. Yes, the Army Black Knights, one of 26 undefeated teams in the country at this point. The non-cons have been brutal. A lot of teams have lost. We are down to 26 who can still sport an O in the loss column. Lost Oceans is in there going, as an Iowa fan, I like to brag about having the best running back in all of college football. 4 weeks into the season, yes, he is single-handedly your entire offense, but he is great as well. Anything you want to mention in the chat this evening, any questions or anything, just let us know and we'll get back to you as the evening goes on. Right, let's just dive down into a quick bit of news before we get into this. So as mentioned in undefeated teams update, 26 there. When we get down to about 15, we'll start listing out who's in that category, but still a few to go at this point in time. The main news outside of college realignment, we'll go over all the realignment stuff at another time because we devoted a lot of time to it last week, and more stuff's going on, so it's fluid and a lot more is going to happen in the near future. But the big news today regards NIL, and we've not talked about NIL a little bit in a while, but UNLV are looking for a new starting quarterback as their current one, Matthew Sluka, has made a shock announcement stating that he will be redshirting the rest of his season and taking no further part with his 3-0 UNLV Rebels team. His side of the story is that certain NIL promises have been made to him when he transferred, which have not been kept, so he's taking a stand on that. The rumor is An assistant coach offered him 100 grand to move there, and he's seen about 3,000 of that. Only the rumors circulating on the other side of the coin is that he's been one offered a considerable amount of money to transfer elsewhere. That is a rumor and unsubstantiated at this moment in time, but it's his last year of college football. So if he doesn't redshirt this year, he can't go to a new school next year. Maybe people putting stuff out there in the degree. And then his family also saying that actually, yeah, he's just not been paid. But the team are trying to make it out like they fully paid him everything that they guaranteed and that he's asking for more because they've started the season 3-0 and they've beaten two power programs. But Ryan, this is kind of bringing into topic a bigger stand on NIL. This 100 grand he was promised was verbal only. It's not guaranteed. It wasn't woven in there as something they have to pay him. So it's kind of a he said, she said thing. And then maybe there might be a thing about him trying to renegotiate if it is on him, but it doesn't seem like it's on him. But we're starting to see some of the loopholes and some of the flaws of NIL now. And it's going to cost you NLV because they've got two big wins under the system. They're one of the front runners to get in the playoffs from the group of five. And now they've kind of got to start it from scratch with a new quarterback.
Yeah, it's just really ugly. And this is why so many people were against NIL because they knew this would happen and it's only taken a year. And we've already got something that most likely will end up in a civil court of some kind. You imagine this feels like it's going to end up with a lawsuit, like I say, because it's going to turn into defamation, slander. Like I say, if the first thing is, like I say, contracts. If you're going to bother hiring an agent, you don't make verbal agreements. And I imagine they sat him down after all this and probably said, "You're at fault there. You shouldn't have made any verbal agreements with any coaches." If they'd have wanted it in writing, they probably would never, it wouldn't even have gone there because I imagine they wouldn't have been able to commit to it there and then, knowing they'd have to fulfill it. But like I say, we've got these representatives. It don't help, like I say, that his family are getting involved. Like, the only time a family should ever get involved is a kid at high school and he sits down and picks his first school and they should influence him where he goes. Matthews Luca's a big old boy. He's like 24 years old. They shouldn't be getting involved. They shouldn't even have known what the offers were. But yeah, we're going to see this now happen a lot. So I don't know. Holy cross, let's say, look at him. I find it hard to believe he'd have been offered 100 grand. I just can't see it from where he's come to what they're offering. It seems crazy money. Like I said, but if they did offer it and now they've backed out of it, clever game, don't have to pay him it. But yeah, now 3 games in, got to find a new quarterback. And yeah, he's played enough enough football to redshirt. But I don't know, where's he going to go? How is he going to handle his negotiations at the end of the season? I'd like to think out of this, he's learned something. Next year, you draft everything up in the contracts, like you say, and like I say, you're going to make sure they're going to cover allowances from you moving halfway across the country. If anything, you get it up front. But yeah, this is going to be the dark side of football. Like I say, people getting lied to, uprooting, changing school, not getting there. Yeah, it shouldn't be played out on Twitter as well. I think they're all at fault for releasing these statements. It should have just said bye, just say things haven't worked out, contracts, like say, all this just makes it more difficult to settle it in the long run. But yeah, a team that was incredibly promising, had a good percentage to make the playoffs. Like I say, now has to go back to the drawing board. I don't know they've got a good backup, but I don't know what he brings to the table because I don't know well about him. But yeah, Matthew now has to sit out. Like I say, consider his options, and this time next year, go again. And there's going to be a lot of eyes on him next year to see how he plays at a bigger school. If he falls flat on his face next year and he suck, something tells me a lot of people are going to be straight on Twitter in his DMs and mentions saying like, well, should have kept the 3 grand a month and stayed here. So yeah, he's making a big decision. He could go to a school that does not suit him next year.
See, this is the thing. If a power program comes in for it now, then it lends credence to the fact that maybe he's been. But at this minute in time, you can't say who's at fault because, like I say, it's a he said, she said. It's all over Twitter. Family are involved, agents are involved, friends of Barry Odom are involved. But at the core, like you said, the mention just there, the people who suffer most are the fans because Rebs fans have not really had a lot to cheer about in recent years. They've been a horrifically bad football team, and then you get the program on track last year. You get to a Mountain West title game, and then you start this season with 2 wins away against power opposition on the road, not just at home, on the road against Big 12 opposition. And you're coming into a massive game this weekend against Fresno State at home, one of your rivals. You've got the chance to take the Mountain West by the scruff of the neck. And now you have this done to you, and it's kind of like, oh God, here we go. It was going to happen eventually. And like you say, they've got to start again. The backup, Hajj Malik Williams, they bought him from the Campbell Fighting Camels. He's the passing option out the two of them, because obviously Sluka runs. He's passed for less than 300 yards in his first 3 games, but remains to be seen how he operates in the go-go. But it is the fans who are going to suffer as a result of this. Rebs fans.
Yeah, started hot. They like their chances at making that final spot and expanding playoffs. I hope the quarterback comes in and nothing changes, and then they can be kind of like, well, screw you, we didn't need you anyway. That's kind of the stance I reckon they're going to try want to take because the team has been very quiet and they're not going to air their dirty laundry in public. The team, like I say, I'm not going to come out and release anything. Yeah, the fans, it sucks. His teammates as well. Like I said, I feel for them because a lot of them took to him very quickly, and
Yeah.
now they're going to feel like, was it all fake? Like I say, they won't know what to believe. So it's one of those. I said a lot of people shooting from the hip, firing, asking questions later. Like I say, I can't take a side. I don't know everything. We're never going to know because it sounds like it wasn't all written down. He should, yeah. Everyone, please learn a lesson from this. Like I say, get everything in writing, get it signed, and then when one of you doesn't hold your end of the bargain up, then it's pretty easy to decipher who.
Yeah, exactly. We'll keep an eye on this and see what happens. Because say, as of now, no one knows apart from the people involved. So, but that is such a shame there for UNLV.
They might even, I wouldn't be surprised if anything he has been paid is asked to return. And
Yeah,
that's where you get into a lawsuit if you can be sued then.
yeah,
So this is where it gets
potentially,
ugly now.
potentially. If he's got a scholarship there as well, then I guess can they take the scholarship off him if he I don't know I don't know how it works, but can they rescind the scholarship? Who knows?
Yeah, maybe like I say, he might struggle with fees next year out. So yeah,
Yeah,
this definitely won't be the last we've heard of it now.
no, absolutely not. But hopefully, they're able to figure something out. But yeah, bad news there for UNLV. Right. We'll move that on. That's pretty much all the news we're going to go through today because we've got a lot else to go through. And we're going to dive next. And you mentioned it last week, why looking at the top 25 rankings for the first time, we use the Associated Press ones because they're generally the go-to ones for during the week. So we're 4 weeks into the season now, kind of starting to get a little bit of a clearer idea of which teams are good, which teams are bad. Some of them haven't played anyone yet, but we're going to go through it, just offer our thoughts there. So I'll go through them 5 teams at a time just to let you know what you're at. If there's anything you want to mention about them, then we'll get in there. So starting at 25, currently ranked 25 in the nation's Boise State. They are 2-1 currently, wins over Portland State and Georgia Southern. And obviously that very narrow road loss to Oregon, 37-34. That's what you would call a good defeat there for them. Number 24, you've got Texas A&M. They're 3-1. They've got wins over McNeese State, Bowling Green, and Florida, and one loss to ranked Notre Dame. 23, you've got Kansas State. They are 3-1. You've got wins over UT Martin, Tulane, and Arizona, but then a heavy road loss to BYU, which we're going to talk about later. And then at 22, you've got BYU. They're 4-0 on the year, BYU are. Wins over Southern Illinois, SMU, Wyoming, and number 23 ranked Kansas State. And then at 21, we've got Oklahoma, who are 3-1. They've beaten Temple, Houston, only just, Tulane, only just. And then they got absolutely schooled in their game this week, but we'll talk about that later. They are 3-1. Anything that pops out to you in the first 5 there, Ryan? I mean, BYU 4-0, ranked team win, Power 4 win. They've a good start to life this year in 2024.
Yeah, I saw today like some like snack and like, oh yeah, all those times BYU got rejected with the Pac-12. Well, they've taken to life in the Big 12 pretty damn well, aren't they? I don't think they care about Utah State get a Pac-12 move. Like I said, they've adjusted pretty well. And yeah, I was shocked this weekend. Like I say, they upset me. They're in my bad books, BYU. But yeah, opened a can of ass whooping, didn't they? And yeah,
Absolutely.
4-0 look very good. And yep, can't fault their ranking right now. They were
No.
projected to finish pretty low in the Big 12 AP poll. I remember with Arizona State, they both were neither to expected to do well. So they're all making the coaches look pretty silly.
Absolutely, the Cougs are doing well to start the year. Moving now into the next five. So at number 20, we've got Oklahoma State. They are 3-1. They've beaten South Dakota State, Arkansas, and Tulsa. The only loss is to ranked team Utah. At number 19, you've got Illinois. The Fighting Illini are 4-0 on the year. They've beaten Eastern Illinois, Kansas, Central Michigan, and Nebraska, which we're going to be talking about today as well. They were ranked at the time of beating them, not anymore. At 18, we've got the Beptical, Iowa State at 3-0. They've beaten North Dakota, Iowa in the rivalry game, and Arkansas State. At number 17, you've got Clemson, who are 2-1. They got absolutely railroaded by Georgia. They've had big wins over App State and NC State, putting up 125 points in response to that. And then at 16, we got Notre Dame at 3-1, wins over number 24 ranked Texas A&M, Miami of Ohio, and Purdue, but a bad home loss to Northern Illinois. Some good success stories in here, right? Illinois, Iowa State, good start to the year, but Clemson and Notre Dame, with the level of their defeats and who they were against, they feel a little high for my liking.
I think Clemson, with the recency bias, like you say, in the last 2 weeks, I've seen a lot of people putting Clay Klubnik back in their Heisman watches. To be fair, in the last 2 weeks, like I said, they have obliterated them two sides, on there. They've played pretty much perfect football, and they couldn't have really responded better to a loss. So I'm not going to write them off just yet because I've seen a lot of the ACC struggle right now. But yeah, Clemson have responded how they needed to with two very professional performances. Like I say, on the other side, I've seen in defense, wow, they are starting to turn on Marcus Freeman. Like I say, I don't think anyone's really impressed by them battering Purdue because the Boilermakers blow and Hudson Card, like I say, yeah, like I say, it's been a disaster move for him and it's not panned out well. So yeah, but yeah, I'd honestly can make a case to put Clemson probably above ND right now. But yeah, I can't argue with a lot of them. Like I say, a lot of the teams, like I say, have got a loss, but they've got some big wins under their belts.
Yeah. And we got the upstarts in there. So I said the Fighting Illini, the Cyclones
Yeah, Illinois
slowly.
super impressive. I've watched some of their football this year. Can't
Hmm.
fault. Like I say, Luke Altmaier, kids come out of nowhere. Like I say, what a career backup makes the move here. And like you say, he's barely put a foot wrong so far. So fair
And he's
play to
got,
him.
and he's got a number one target in Pat Bryant, who's just destroying everything in front of him. So sometimes you just need a best friend to throw to, and it brings out the best in you. Moving into the top 15, so we've got Louisville at 15, ranked three. Sorry, they're 3-0. They've beaten Austin Peay, Jacksonville State, and Georgia Tech. At 14, you've got LSU. They're 3-1. They've beaten Nicholls State, who they struggled against, South Carolina by the skin of their teeth, and UCLA, a bit more of a dominant one there. But obviously a loss in the season opener to number 13 ranked USC. They are 2-1. They've beaten LSU and Utah State, but lost to Michigan this weekend. I love that because I called that one there. And then number 12 is Michigan. They are 3-1, beating Fresno State, Arkansas State, and number 13 USC. Obviously, the loss to ranked Texas. And then finishing off this group, number 11, we've got Missouri. They are 4-0 on the year, wins over Murray State, Buffalo, Boston College, and the biggest of scares this weekend against Vanderbilt, but they managed to pull it out of the bag. But they lost 4 spots in the power rankings because of that one there. But starting to get to the big teams with one losses now. Again, you're looking here. And I think some teams are too high based on their losses, but what do you reckon with these five?
I reckon a lot of these reputations preceding them. That's why LSU are there. And full credit to USC. I watched the game. Do you know what? Miller Moss, they played a great game. Like I said, they were very unlucky not to win. They went in there and they gave everything at them. And yeah, like I say, I have more respect for the Trojans now because their defense was brilliant. And their defense has let them down so many times in the past. But it went in there, did a good job. On the flip side, like I say, Michigan, their football has been really ugly. all season. But respect to them to, like I say, getting the job done and beating the Trojans. It was a defensive effort again. Still, I like to say I don't trust Orge yet. I don't think anyone's really seen any reason to trust him. They won in spite of him, but they keep finding ways to win because, like I say, a wrong game, a defense. It don't winning football games doesn't have to be pretty, which is
Yeah.
fine by me, and they get that. Yeah, so yeah, very interesting. Yeah, Louisville. To be fair, Louisville, they've just gone under the radar. They've just kind of just their wins aren't flashy, but last year they had a really good year and started the year undefeated. So I'm not surprised to see them here. Surprised to see them, like I say, they beat a really good Georgia Tech team that had some momentum and they kind of just slammed the door shut in their face. So fair enough. They're kind
Yeah.
of now going to be a constant in the ACC.
Well, they've got a big one this coming weekend to really prove that they are legit, but we'll talk about it in a bit. And then we get into the top 10. At 10, we've got Utah. The Utes, despite injuries to Cam Rising and losing a load of talent last year, are 4-0. They've beaten Southern Utah, Baylor, Utah State, and number 20 ranked Oklahoma State. We'll talk about that in a bit. Then, between 9 and 6, so I'm just going to read these out. Penn State are number 9. They're 3-0. They've beaten West Virginia, Bowling Green, and Kent State. Oregon are at number 8. They're 3-0. They've beaten Idaho, Boise State, and Oregon State. Miami of Florida are number 7. They are 4-0. They've beaten Florida, Florida A&M, Ball State, and South Florida. And then you got the Ole Miss Rebs at 6. They're 4-0. Wins over Furman, Middle Tennessee, Wake Forest, and Georgia Southern. And the thing that stands out to me in that particular group of 4, maybe we'll leave Utah out of this. There's not a single good win in any of those. That's 4 cupcake schedules, and they were already highly ranked, and that's why they're all still there.
Yeah, I understand the skept. As much as everyone knows, I'm an Ole Miss guy. Lane Kiffin is my favorite coach in the country. Jackson Dart is firmly, like I say, top 3 in the Heisman. Yeah, it's been damn easy there. They have rolled over everyone in their way. But two right, damn right they should have done. Like I say, look who they started with. I know you can only beat who's in front of you, but the front schedule, like I say, has been very backloaded. So I can't judge the Rebels on anything yet. If they go into SEC play and they start slipping up, then everyone knows there's a fraud list, and Lane Kiffin will suddenly be looking over his shoulder. And yeah, same really goes, like I say, Penn State. Yeah, they've been fine. They've won the games they've had to, like I say, Miami. Miami have won playing good football,
Hmm.
like I say, and they've had some. Uh, they can give them headaches. Some of their opponents. They've dispatched them all pretty well. You can make a case they should be higher, like I say, because also, like I say, they've got one of the leading players in the nation playing good football. So yeah, you can make a case that maybe they go over Ole Miss right now because they probably, yeah, I'd say their schedule's a bit harder.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
but
yeah.
yeah, like I say, we're getting in teams like I say now where a lot of them are winless, but then you really have to just look at who they've played right now, and that's how
Yeah.
you kind of put one ahead of another.
Yeah, it's just almost holding fire with these until they play some serious games. Then the top 5, you've got Tennessee at number 5. They're 4-0. They've beaten Chattanooga, NC State, Kent State, and number 21 ranked Oklahoma, and they swatted them despite what the court scoreline may say. Number 4, you've got Alabama, who are 3-0. They've beaten Western Kentucky, USF, and Wisconsin. You got Ohio State at 3. They're 3-0. They've been Akron, Western Michigan, and Marshall. Then you've got Georgia at number 2, who are 3-0. Wins over number 17 Clemson, Tennessee Tech, and Kentucky. And then at 1, a new number 1 from last week, you've got the Texas Longhorns. They are 4-0. They've beaten Colorado State, number 12 ranked Michigan, UTSA, and ULM. And you take a look at this and you kind of figure maybe switching Tennessee. I'd put Tennessee at 3 here and bump the others down because Texas, Georgia, and Tennessee all have ranked wins. Alabama and Ohio State don't. But I think overall, Texas do deserve to be number 1 in the nation. They look the most complete team on both sides of the ball right now at a high level for me. But what do you reckon about the top 5?
Yeah, send Ohio State down. They struggled with Marshall, didn't they?
It wasn't pretty.
It wasn't
They're
pretty.
all at
Like I say,
home.
it wasn't convincing when it should have been. So yeah, I'd take OSU down a bit. Like I say, Tennessee, the Oklahoma win does spice up their schedule a little bit. Yeah, that probably gets them a knuckle up. But no, I can't fault number one. It's Texas. Like I say, some good wins. Like I say, NC State. Like I say, a Michigan. Like I say, they've got some solid games. And yeah, complimentary football, defense good, passing brilliant, and run the ball. Everything's kind of just clicking right now. And like I say, they've also done that with, like I say, the adversity of missing a starter. Like I say, they've built a process where they always do, where a quarterback comes in straight away and also gets the job done. So they've also had to deal with some sort of adversity as well, which works in your favour. And they've now
Yeah.
got a QB controversy.
Yeah, they have. So we'll have to wait and see what happens there. Sorry about the graphics that have come up on screen. I'll get Matt to shift them. He's probably left them on from his thing the other day. We still are talking college football, not Arizona Cardinals. You'll just have to wait a moment until our lovely faces reappear. But yeah, that is your top 25 for now. And yeah, we will keep an eye on that. We'll look at them every week going forward from now because we're in conference play. There's a lot more big games coming up. We've got very big game in particular coming up this week. So one of those top five is certainly going to fall. Right, let's move it on now and let's get down into the meat and bones of this week. Let's have a look back at week 4 and what a week it was. I stare down and look at the list here, and we have some absolute slobber knockers which produced so many points. But there is only one place we're going to start this week. Again, if you are familiar with the show, you know we always put the title of the we always put the title around the first one we're going to talk about. We're talking a fistful of Doll-ison this week. We are talking about wide receiver for James Madison, Omarion Doll-ison, and of course we're talking James Madison at UNC, at Chapel Hill, at Keenan Stadium. UNC were favored by 11.5 points coming into this game at home. And why wouldn't they be, right? Because they are facing off against group of 4 opposition. And normally what I do is I'll go through the entire scoring drives and then bring Ryan. But we're going to do this quarter by quarter because if I did that, it'll just be me talking for the next 20 minutes. And I want Ryan to be able to talk on his own show. So James Madison at UNC. James Madison opened up this game with the ball. Decent drive for them, but stopped fairly early on. They had to rely on a 50-yard field goal from their kicker, No Ruslas, who you're going to hear about a lot in this thing. They take an early 3-0 lead there. Jacoby Criswell, the UNC quarterback, he responds with a 42-yard bomb downfield to his wide receiver, Christian Hamilton, to get them deep into Duke's territory. But just 2 plays later at the James Madison 10, James Madison linebacker Trent Hendricks punches the ball out of Hamilton's hands after he gets a second catch on the drive. The Dukes are able to recover and turn the ball over. Both teams then go 3 and out, but on the UNC punt, cornerback Terrence Spence for James Madison makes a great block of the punt. It flies up in the air. It's picked up by wide receiver Jaden Mines, who returns it for a scoop and score for the Dukes. And then the Dukes go full sicko as they not only go for it, they not only go for 2 points, they get 2 points, but they draw up a fake kick attempt. And Matt loved this one because they catch UNC completely off guard. The kicker, Ruslas, passes to the long snapper, Jack Mowry, who is on his own on the offensive line, snaps it back to the kicker. The kicker then rolls out to the right, throws it to Mowry for the score, 11-0 to James Madison. Apparently, they've been practicing that 2-point play all week, and the long snapper hadn't caught the ball once. But they still decided to try it during the game, and they got it. So James Madison, early 11-0 lead. UNC seemed to take this personally. They hit back with a 6-play, 2-minute drive. This ends with their own improvisation as everybody just starts throwing all their plays out the box. So UNC, they have a direct snap to the running back, Omarion Hampton. He hands it off to the quarterback, Jacoby Criswell, who is lined up as the running back, but he's still doing the QB cadence and fools them into thinking they're going to snap it to him. But Hampton hands it off to Criswell. Criswell, he heads out to the right. He fakes a reverse handoff that buys him some time. He passes to John Copenhaver at the 20, who breaks a tackle, finds the end zone, and they get the touchdown. They convert the point, 11-7 to James Madison. But just people are bringing all tricks out the box here. UNC then turn the screws a little. They get a sack from Bo Atkinson, which ruins the next James Madison drive. And UNC respond with an even quicker 5-play, 80-yard drive in under 2 minutes. And bearing in mind, one of those plays is offensive holding for minus 10 yards. There's a 30-yard dart from Criswell to Kobe Payer. It's followed by a 28-yard touchdown run from Omarion Hampton. He beats one tackle on the line of scrimmage. Then he just turns on the nitrous, burns a hole between the linebacker and the cornerback. He's gone. All of a sudden, UNC switch this round. They're leading 14-11. But James Madison, they respond right away, and it only takes them 2 plays. Quarterback Alonzo Barnett gets UNC to jump on a cadence. He's got a free play. He sends an airmailed 55-yard bomb to Amarian Doll-ison, who the show is named after. He's completely cooked cornerback Ty Adams for UNC. The pass is dead in stride. It's beautiful. Doll-ison takes it home for a 69-yard touchdown, and James Madison to get the lead back, 18-14. And then Bob Chesney goes full sicko. They pull off an onside kick up 18-14. So they go uber aggressive. So Ruislas, he hits this sort of skimming kick right at the UNC number 53. He goes down to try and get it. It hits a divot, jumps up into his chest, bounces right back to James Madison. It is one of the most perfectly executed onside kicks you've seen in your life. And then 2 plays later, Alonzo Barnett again in a clean pocket launches another monster pass downfield. Doll-ison once again has the freedom of Chapel Hill to catch it, gets it all the way to the UNC 8. And then Alonzo Barnett, the quarterback himself, finishes it on a 3-yard design quarterback run as he rolls over a fallen UNC player to get into the end zone. And all of a sudden, James Madison turn it around. It's 25-14. UNC then finish the quarter at their own 45. And at the end of the first, this is 25-14. And right, I'm going to stop it here. So what a crazy first quarter here. So, if you want to go to Chapel Hill and beat UNC, you're going to have to score a lot of points because their offense is quite good. And Bob Chesney, you know him very well, come from Holy Cross. The man's a winner. The man's aggressive. He tells his team to go at it from the off. Special teams make a great play. They're up. And even when they concede 2 and they fall behind, he's just like, right, nope, we're going to go back out. We're going to air it out, score. We're going to onside kick it. We're just going to keep coming at you and at you and at you. And what a first quarter this was.
Yeah. Empty the bag of tricks early on. Get the momentum. Show them they're not messing around. I'm all for onside kicks when you're leading. These new onside kick rule in the NFL is bullshit. Only at 4th quarter, only behind. Piss off. Like I say, that's not what the onside kicks. The onside kick should be a total surprise. Like I say, it looked like it came, like they looked stunned that they even tried it. And the fact, like I say, perfectly executed kick, you make sure you can't catch it, it bobbles. And like I say, a big bomb from Barnett. Like I say, and you just caught cold. UNC literally are rubbing their eyes in disbelief at what's happened, and they're behind so quickly. The crowd silenced, and that's kind of when you start to chip away at them. If you turn the crowd on them at Chapel Hill, like you say, things get a little bit easier for you because, like I said, they don't take too kindly to this. So it was a great first quarter.
Absolutely. And, things just kept getting even crazier. So 2 plays into the second quarter, Jacoby Criswell finds Bryson Nesbitt on the perimeter at the JMU 10. He spins, powers his way past 2 defenders for the touchdown. And all of a sudden, UNC back in this. It's 25-21. And at this point, with about 10 minutes to go in the second, the longest drive in this game had been 2 minutes and 19 seconds. It was crazy. James Madison slowed down the pace, but they put together a really articulate 8-play, 75-yard drive, takes over 4 minutes off the clock and ends with Alonzo Barnett passing to a wide open Cam Ross from 6 yards out for a touchdown. And all of a sudden they're back up 2 scores, 32-21 to James Madison. They then force a UNC punt quickly It's a bad punt, goes to the JMU 41. They get pinged on special teams, so they start at their own 31. But Chesney again, he goes uber aggressive. The first play of this drive, James Madison break out the flea flicker. Barnett hits Cam Ross deep for 42 yards, and unfortunately for UNC, their linebacker Amari Campbell gets pinged for roughing the passer after this, so it becomes a 57-yard play to take it all the way down to the UNC 14, and it takes one play to punch it in. Alonso throws a beautiful pass in stride to Taylor Thompson for the touchdown. All of a sudden, the lead's up at 18, 39-21 to James Madison, and then things start getting ugly for UNC. So UNC's drive, it's first saved by a roughing the passer call, otherwise they would have had to punt. But then James Madison sniff out a double reverse, kind of like what happened to the Lions the other day, for an 8-yard loss. On the play, Criswell loses his helmet, so he has to come off for the play, and in comes the backup, Connor Harrell. He takes one snap in this game. Unfortunately for him, that one snap, he fumbled it straight to the James Madison defensive lineman, Kyrie Mans, on the UNC 28, and in one play, Alonzo Barnett just runs it in from 28 yards out. The secondary turn their back to him when he's looking to throw. He just rolls out to the left. He has to beat one half-ass tackle from some poor linebacker trying to make up room on him. He takes it all the way in. It's 46-21 to James Madison in the blink of an eye. The teams then trade turnovers. So Terrence Spence, who had a day and a half, by the way, here, excellently picks off Jacoby Criswell with a diving leap to the perimeter when he undercuts a route. Really good pick from him. But then Cam Ross, he gets hit hard after a deep completion from Barnett. He coughs up the ball to the UNC linebacker, Power Eccles. So the Tar Heels get the ball back, but they end up going 3 and out. James Madison then have a clunky penalty-ridden drive. It takes up till 3 minutes to go in the half. Then they punt it, gets down to the 2-minute warning. So UNC get the ball back. They're down 46-21 at this point. They've got 1 minute 25 before the half to make something happen. But disaster strikes. Chiswell takes a big sack from the edge, Eric O'Neill, another who had a terrific day, forces them to 2nd and 18. He starts trying to force the issue. He throws a suicide ball right down the middle of the field. Terrence Spence again picks him off, but this time he returns it 33 yards for the pick six, thanks to some really tremendous blocking as well. And it's 53-21 as you're going into the half. I mean, throwing bombs at the start here, but then James Madison just relentless. Flea flickers, turnovers, sacks, really turned the screws to UNC in the second quarter, but still highly entertaining stuff.
Yeah, ugly quarter for UNC. This is where you can't lose. You can't win a game in the first half, but you can certainly lose it. And we saw that here. Let's say they dug themselves a hole that eventually they wouldn't be able to come back from. Terrible, like I say, taking risks that they don't need to take. We saw along in the game, throwing balls into double coverage, wide open in the middle of the field, just asking for someone to come and take it from them. I suppose the form was unfortunate. Bringing in a QB cold, it's never ideal, especially when a player, like say, they enforce that even if you take a timeout, they're still going to make him, like I say, because he lost his helmet, miss a player. So that one was fortunate, but the return to house, yeah. This is where JMU just plucky opportunists. If I say they put the ball in danger and they said, we'll take that, thank you very much. And then when they do it, what's the most important thing? You score points off turnovers, you punish them, and then they feel even worse about it. You don't let them get away with it. And by now, they're starting to turn the screw a little bit. You feel like, say, the momentum has turned one way and they're not going to get it back heading into the half. It'd take a really big team to come out of the half and kind of shake those things off.
Yeah, exactly. And apparently a lot of UNC fans left at the half because they were that disgusted with what they were seeing. So you come out of halftime. UNC tried to come out firing. JJ Jones has a stunning 29-yard toe tap reception on the perimeter. Really great catch from him. But a holding call, again, penalties, stole the drive. They have to settle for a 42-yard field goal from the kicker, Noah Barrett. So they only reduce it to 53-24. And then James Madison really start to twist the knife on a critical 3rd and 8. Barnett finds Ymir Knight down the seam. He hits open field, gets a 48 yards from the play, gets it all the way down to the UNC 16. And Dylan Williams finishes the drive. He's all alone in the back of the end zone, completely busts UNC's zone coverage that they're putting out. Barnett finds him for the touchdown, 60-24, and this game is essentially dead at this point. UNC turned to hurry up offense. They force a response in 2 minutes. Ryan and Antony, who still had a great game, from 15 yards out, he breaks 4 individual tackles from 4 different JMU players and forces his way, whilst running backwards half of this run, into the end zone. The man's just built different. Chiswell does find Brian Nesbitt for the 2-point conversion, so they bring it back to 60-32. James Madison then sort of go into a little bit more of a run-only mode on offense. They're able to take 4 minutes off the clock, but then there is a rare special teams error for them, so they got a scoop and score early in this game. UNC got one in response. So UNC linebacker Caleb Lavals, I think it is, he blocked a punt, and the running back Davian Gauss returned it 34 yards for a scoop and score. The 2-point was no good, though. Still 60-38 at this point for James Madison. But then James Madison really managed to stall them. They take nearly 5 minutes off the clock either side of the fourth quarter happening. Ruislas hits a 44-yard field goal to tack on a few more, makes it 63-38. UNC again, they go 80 yards in 2 minutes. Amarian Hampton gets another score from 2 yards out, but again, they fail the 2-pointer, so it's still 63-44 at this point. And then they get the ball back in 60 seconds again with around 10 minutes left. But Eric O'Neill off the edge once again kills the rally on a 3rd and 10. He strip sacks Chiswell. James Madison get the ball back, and any lingering hope of a fullback is done. JMU work it from the UNC 42, where they get it all the way down into the end zone. Another completely busted coverage allows Alonzo Barnett to find his tight end Logan Kyle in eons of space for a touchdown. At this point, 70-44 for James Madison. There's 4 minutes left. UNC put together this really slow, clunky 12-play drive. Takes 3 minutes. They do get a consolation score, Jacoby Criswell to Jordan Shipp. They fail the 2-pointer, and it ends 70-55 for James Madison, the 11.5-point underdogs in this one. Just a few of the bits that have come out after this. So they are the first opponent to hit UNC for 70 at their Keenan Stadium. They're only the second ever team to put 70 down on them full stop after East Carolina in 2014, I believe it was. This was the most points ever scored in a half by James Madison, 53. It is the most points ever scored in a first half against UNC ever. No one has scored this many points on them in a first half there. Jacoby Criswell, his 475 passing yards in the day is 3rd all time for UNC because he had to throw it all game. But the funniest part of this, Rye, so you know how we talk about payment agreements, how teams agree to pay to go for these things. So UNC, for this game, agreed to pay James Madison $10,000 per point they scored, meaning James Madison racked up a $700,000 payday as a result of scoring 70 points on the team here. Everything went crazy afterwards. Matt Brown threatened to resign. There was all sorts of shenanigans in the UNC room. I mean, let's give credit to Bob Chesney and James Madison. Everyone wondered when Kurt Signetti left with James Madison, was there going to be a drop-off with them? But if anything, this new uber-aggressive style of a man who just wins games of football, you know him as a winner, they look amazing. Special teams, even the defense gave up 50, but so many turnovers in this game, which eventually won it them. Offense looks great. I mean, what a performance from the Dukes.
Yeah, this is everything, like say, the style they want it. They're going to live and die by the sword. They'll give up 50 points. They'll give up, like say, 616 yards. But like say, they'll then punch you in the face 5 times. And the turnovers in the end, yeah, would what turn the tide. Great field position and scoring off turnovers. And that was enough for them to keep their head above water. And this is how they're going to be. They're going to be aggressive. There'll be times where this backfires and it costs them games. And like I say, the fans will just have to be patient, understand this will be the Bob Chesney way. He's going to go for onside kicks when he shouldn't do, and he's going to lose them, and it's going to cost you a game. And he'll be like, "Well, I'll do it again." Like I say, I'd still do it even if I knew it was going to lose. Like I say, he'll stand by it. Like I say, because he knows in the end he's going to come out on top of all decisions. Very Dan Campbell-esque. Like I say, he's happy to give up plenty of yardage, but like I say, he knows that his team can score faster, just as heavily, if not more heavily. So that's like he's going to roll the dice on both sides of the ball and special teams, and that's what's going to make them really exciting to watch whether they win or lose. And whoever brokered the deal at money per points probably should be fired. That's the first time I've ever heard of it ever.
And
And
it is
I
true, by the way. I have double checked that. That was
that
the
has to be the
rules.
stupidest thing I've ever heard of. Not giving them a flat fee to play.
I mean, you're playing a group of four team, a group of five team. I get the James Madison, but I don't know. They
Even if they
got too
score
big
like
for their boots.
35, like I said, we've seen
350
teams pay
grand.
like a couple of 100,000. Even then, you're paying through the nose. You could have just given like they'd have taken 150, 200,000 to play the game.
So this game, 717 yards of offense from UNC, 635 from JMU. So that's 1,352 yards of offense in this game. UNC threw for 475, James Madison for 388. James Madison ran for 243. UNC ran for 200. But critically in this game, turnovers, a turnover margin, a +4 for James Madison. They forced 3 fumbles, they recovered them all, and 2 interceptions, and a blocked punt, which doesn't count on this, which they returned for a touchdown. For James Madison, it was just 1 fumble, which they lost. But you go into the performances, Alonzo Barnett, the quarterback, Alonzo Barnett the third, 22 of 34, 377 yards, 5 touchdowns and no turnovers from him. And then on the ground, he had 11 carries for 118 yards and 2 touchdowns. Amarian Dollison, 3 catches for 125 yards and a touchdown. Cam Ross, 7 catches on 7 targets for 107 yards and 1 touchdown. Everyone went crazy on this. Jacoby Creswell, 454 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Amarian Hampton, 18 carries, 137 yards, and 3 touchdowns for him. Nothing he could have done in this game there, but an offensive masterclass, let's say, in this one, right? And Alonzo Barnett, he looked damn good in this. That arm is legit. His deep passes, every time, banging stride.
Yeah, he showed that he's got everything in the locker, everything that is needed to be a great quarterback at this level. Like you say, he's able to hit the deep ball, he can do the short to intermediate stuff, he can tuck it and run, he can escape when he needs to and kind of make plays out of nothing that are dead in the water. So I think they're going to be really good. Like I say, lost a lot of guys and they will have been looking at the QB situation this year thinking, we don't know what we've got in some guys, but he's emerged very quickly as the new face of the franchise after losing John. So that was big for them to get a guy to establish himself pretty early on. He's done that now, and he has got the ability and the schedule to go out there and have a pretty massive year.
Yeah, absolutely. On the flip side, I mean, we've talked for years now about Matt Brown and his inability to create a great defense. Now, people are going to say the 3 games beforehand, they've not given up more than 20 points, but I mean, they played Minnesota with due respect, and then a couple of cupcake schedules. Not really. This was their first big test, and every year they seem to fail the defensive test. And in an ACC that's wide open, things just don't change with him. You get these quarterbacks who just throw for years and years and years, and receivers who stat pad, and running backs who stat pad. The offenses are great, but he just can't get this defense right. And at 73, you've got to figure time is closing for him now. This is a bad loss, and they're away at Duke this week. They start the ACC stuff. If they start with a couple of losses and can't be competitive, it's got to feel like the door's closing on him now.
Oh, this is a terrible loss. Like I say, these are opponents that looked at they'll look at this and probably thought, make life hard for us, difficult, but we should be winning. Not they're going to go out there and absolutely rattle us. And even though they scored 50, 50 of the most irrelevant points you could ever score. Because like I say, apart from they had what was it, one lead? I think they had one lead in the game, didn't they? And that
Yeah.
unraveled super quickly. Like I say, at some point, like I say, when you're like 63, 28 down, That game is over. Like I say, honestly, the stadium at that point probably should have been completely empty, apart from traveling Dukes fans, because anyone that sits through that is either not got a life or just truly dedicated. Because like I said, but yeah, it's time to. He's such a legend in the game. Like I said, you don't want to get to the point where you have to fire him. Why would he just
No.
go on his own terms? Like I said, why would you want to a game like this? It just ruins all the hard work you've done. If this
Yeah.
season now is absolutely rotten and they're forced to part ways with him, then that's just really sad. Maybe this should just be like the wake and call and just wake up there and just go, "Do you know what? I'm gonna call it a day at the end of the year and I'm gonna retire." Or like say now, let's start the search for a new head coach to take the program forward. Like say, don't cling on just too long. Like I say, sometimes, like I say, just take the dignified move,
Yeah.
move on, give another guy a chance.
Yeah. Absolutely. And you've got to look at and for James Madison, some of these defenders, Terrell Spence, blocked punt, interception, pick six. You've got the Edge, who's forced a fumble, 3 sacks on the day. Like, I know you give up 50 points, but still these some really impressive performances from the guys there as well on the James Madison defense. Like you say, it's 50 points, but I mean, 8 came off a block punt, not all down on them. So some really good performances on the defense for them as well.
Yeah, some just great performances all around. So like I
Yeah,
say, special teams as well. Perfect and all, like I say, covering kicks, returning them, punching them out, like I say, special teams masterclass. And that is one of the dark arts. Just enough teams just don't put enough attention into. They
no,
get by with just, oh, we'll let them return it to the 20, the 30. Like I say, oh, we won't try anything fancy, or we'll kick field goals on between like 40 and 45. They're really blasé about the special teams. And that can be the difference between a great team and a good team.
yeah, absolutely. Brent asked a question, how many points did they get off turnovers? So they got 8 points off the block punt because they did that weird 2 point play from kicker to long snapper, which was great. They got 7 points off the first pick because they had 5 consecutive touchdowns in a row, but it took a couple of plays for them to get it. They got a touchdown off the onside kick. Onside kick counts as a turnover technically, right?
Yeah, because it's swapping
Yeah.
possessions. Yeah.
So yeah, you got 8 off the block punt, you got 7 off the first interception, you got 7 off the onside kick, you got 7 from the pick six, and then you got 7 off the forced fumble in the
Fumble.
second one.
36 points.
So yeah, you've got about 36 of their 70 points. So about half of their points came as a result of turnovers. So hopefully that one 30 about 36 of the 70 points came off turnovers and special teams. So there you go. Right, let's move on because we have a ton of games to talk about there, but that one was extra special. Well done, Bob Chesney and James Madison. Absolute heroes. Let's move on now to what we call the Dark Horse Dungeon, where the upsets happen and the Dark Horses come forth and stake their claim. And we had an FCS upset this week, and this really upset me because they upset a team who I said was going to be in the CUSA Championship game, and I'm maybe beginning to regret that now. But the Monmouth Hawks went to Pitbull Stadium, the home of the new named home of the Florida International, and they won 45-42 in what was an absolutely awesome game. FIU went up early. There was an 85-yard pick six to start the game. Keon Jenkins then had a passing touchdown to Dean Patterson. So FIU went 14-0 up, and then they just kept on trading touchdowns for the rest of the game. Monmouth hit back, and then FIU got a touchdown, then Monmouth again, and then it went all the way in this weird holding pattern until you got to near the end of the third quarter when Monmouth leveled it up at 35 all. They then managed to turn Florida International over. They took the lead with another touchdown. Florida International responded about 3 minutes later to make it 42 all. And then you had this weird end to the game where teams were turning it over, punting it all the time, and it came down to a field goal right at the end from 43 yards for Michael Calton Jr. He buried that, and they were able to stop Florida International on their last drive. But what a game this was. Monmouth put up 625 yards of offense on their FCS opposition, 361 in the air, 187 on the ground. And for Florida International, this is a bad loss, right? At home, at your new Pitbull Stadium. You want to win this before you start your CUSA period here, but the Monmouth Hawks once again showing that there is a lot of fight in the FCS when it comes into these games, especially against group of five outfits. And boy, howdy, they went crazy in this toe-to-toe and they come out winners at the end. Great game, great win for the Hawks.
Yeah, brilliant win. And really odd game. 83 passing attempts, 1 sack in the entire game. 83 dropbacks, and they got both teams physically got absolutely no pressure all day. Both offensive lines, they can literally hang their heads high, like say, even in a losing team. They were absolutely brilliant. That was the perfect passing pockets. And yeah, Monmouth, a great performance for them. It wasn't pretty at times. Like say, there's a lot of like say, just like three and outs, giving it back and forth, someone waiting to take the game by the scruff of the neck. But they outlasted them in the end, and they were able to have their last laugh. And that's one is the killer blow. So great win for them. Not good for Pitbull Stadium. Not good for Pitbull. I can't imagine this is what he wanted when he made that sound investment. But yeah, fun game. Like I say, lots of stats, tons of offense, little to no defense whatsoever, which is really surprising. But yeah, one of those crazy events that no one saw coming before the game happened.
No, absolutely. Well done to the Monmouth Hawks. You're doing the FCS proud, and we'll see how they get on this year. But certainly it's big for them. For Florida International, book your ideas up, guys, because I've got you in the CUSA Championship game, and you need more sacks than that. I mean, at least Keon Jenkins looks really good. He's only a sophomore this year, so he threw for about 360 yards, 2 touchdowns, didn't turn it over, just wasn't able to win the game because his defense absolutely sucks again, which I should have taken into account. Right. Other upsets, and again, there were quite a few, and this was a very surprising one. This happened early in the week when the South Alabama Jaguars headed to
Oh,
Appalachian State. Appalachian State, 8-point favorites in this game. And when I say a team got railroaded, South Alabama won this game 48-14. They came into App State Stadium like nearly two score underdogs, and they absolutely blew them away. 511 yards of offense for the Jags, 154 through the air. 345 yards of rushing offense at 8.85 yards per carry, led by the greatest name ever, Fluff Bothwell. 13 carries, 116 yards, and 2 touchdowns at 8.9 yards per carry. The quarterback Lopez had 6 carries for 108 yards and a touchdown. He was going at 18 yards per play. Bishop Davenport was going at 11 yards per play. Kentrell Bullock went at 6 yards per play. And App State, who I had as the G5 guys to get into the playoff this year, and Joey Aguiar and that team that is absolutely stacked were humiliated on their own turf, Ryan. Like 360 yards on the ground. They've let a team come into their house and downright bully them.
yeah, it was terrible. I think App State's second touchdown came with what, like 30 seconds left as well. It was the final minute of the game. So I'd say, yeah, it was 48-7 for a large part of the fourth quarter. It was ugly. Like I say, it was bad. Like I say, the fans were so bored. There's a muddy hill, and they were just standing at the top of the hill and sliding down in the mud because the weather had been so bad. They weren't even watching the football in the student section because they were that bad. And the App States brought out their famous like governor helmets and their uniforms. Well, they didn't do the governor proud, did they? Like it's a South Alabama, yeah, just a 4, 5 headed monster rushing. Like it's a true freshman as well, Fluff Bothwell. He dominated. That kid's gonna have a great career. Like I say, that's how he came to the books. And yeah, Gio Lopez, perfect on the ground through the air, just absolutely knifed through them. Big upset, like I say, on the road. for a team that had title credentials. And yeah, the Jags have had two, but yeah, they scored what 82 2 weeks ago, and now they dropped 48 in a huge upset here. Like they're a team, their offense, they're not to be reckoned with. Like I said,
Yeah,
they can score heavy and they can score fast.
yeah. And another team with good special teams. They're starting, get this, their 12 drives, their average starting field position was at their own 46. Like, you're starting pretty much every drive at halfway because you pin App State back so far and you have really good returners on the day who keep managing to break chunks off. But who has an average starting field position of their own 46? That is just gold, especially when you're running the football down them as well. You just take your sweet ass time and you absolutely mincemeat your opposition. And yeah, that was bad.
App State only had 6 penalties of 47 yards too, so there weren't even penalties on the kickoffs that helped them.
No, no, exactly.
Just
This
returns.
was this was all returns. Like I say, it was such a clean game, and I should have actually mentioned that in the UNC game because what they got pinged for, they had a ton of penalties in their game. There were about 20 penalties in that game, but yeah, special teams matters. When you're starting at your own 46, you're going to absolutely twat teams like that. So again, South Alabama, great win for them there, and then. Oh, I'm gonna drop this one on you, right? I'm sorry, but last week you said I believe in Matt Rule and this Nebraska team are going to be different to what they've been in the past. It was number 24
I
ranked
don't blame
Illinois
Matt though.
at number 22 ranked Nebraska. Illinois were 9.5 point dogs for this one on the road, and they managed to pull off the 31-24 upset. And just when you think Nebraska football's going somewhere, they suddenly fall off a cliff. But this is not, Ryan, to put away from anything that the Fighting Illini did in this game. They were just really good. 3 sacks on defense. You had turnover battle. They lost it, but they forced 4 fumbles. They had a pick. They were making life difficult for the Nebraska offense. But yeah, this was. I'll let you take it away. You know, Nebraska have kind of fumbled the ball again.
Yeah, Nebraska, like I said, really shot themselves in the foot with poor ball security. Like I say, in the end, they got into the red zone a lot of times, but yeah, they came away with turnovers at crucial times. A big missed field goal as well. I felt played a part because, like I said, it was they kind of had a chance. Like I said, they were building up to it. They were trying, like I said, get a drive going. Like I said, Dylan was fine. Had a costly interception, but did everything he needed to do. Spread the ball around really well. But in the end, like I said, Luke Altmaier like what 75, 80% complete, 21 and 27 for 4 touchdowns. Just perfect. They just played mistake-free football, did the Fighting Illini, and when Nebraska did make the mistakes, they made sure they punished for them. So it was one of those where they had to play perfect football to win, and only one of the teams was able to do it. And yeah, it hurts for Nebraska. It's not a terrible loss. They still played well against a good team, but it needs an immediate bounce back. And for Illinois now, like I said, that for me, that was their first real test, and they've passed it with flying colours. And now I look at them this week, and I think, could they? Could they do Nittany Lions? I'm looking at them thinking, I think they could. Like I
There,
say, if they
it,
can do that, like I said, this is a huge game for the Nittany Lions.
So you're right. They're 18-point dogs for this, I think. Or there might even be more. Like the
Oh,
line in this is
they're
massive.
covering that, no
The,
doubt.
li- the line is absolutely massive for this game. Let me just check what it's at currently, but I'm pretty sure it's definitely towards 20 that I saw because I didn't put it in the pick watch based on just how big the line was. But I mean, for Illinois, like you say, Luke Altmaier, he's got 2 targets now. Pat Bryant, 2 touchdowns. He's
And
looking one of the best outside receivers, and
Pena,
they got Zachary Franklin.
yeah,
Zachary Franklin's gone there. They got Pena as well, 3.
they've got a trio of guys. It's hard to cover everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. 17.5 point underdogs they are currently
That
against Penn
feels a
State.
bit rich.
Disrespectful. I mean, last year they struggled to beat them big time, but that was because, they had my favorite defensive tackle in the entire nation who kind of took them on one by one, but they seem to be a much more balanced team this year. And Lost Oceans makes point, he goes, as much as I hate Nebraska, it's not a bad loss for them. And it isn't a bad, if Illinois keep winning, this will look a good loss
Gets
on their
better.
record.
But
Although they were at
Nebraska
home.
can't slip up now. They got Purdue, like I say, and they need to be laser focused going into that game to make sure they rebound.
Yeah, Illinois just they kind of just seem to keep finding ways, don't they? But again, you've got the defense that's good there. Like I say, this is going to be a really good game to see where they're at this week. So we'll keep an interested eye on them. And if they win, then whew, the world is their oyster in the Big Ten this year. Other upsets that happened. So Stanford on the upset list
Oh,
this
this were
week.
ugly.
On the always straight to the point. Stanford 26, Syracuse 24. So Stanford were 9.5 point underdogs on the road in this one, and they've sort of had a bit of a topsy-turvy year so far. But again, it's a case of you're able to win the turnover battle here. And Syracuse, Kyle McCord, I mean, they couldn't run the ball. They had, let me just get it up here, 53 yards rushing to 340 yards passing. That is the sign of a very ill offense in terms of one area. You look on Stanford's side of the ball, 178 yards throwing, 181 yards on the ground. You've got a couple of studs there on the ground. Ashton Daniels is a dual threat quarterback. Yes, he did throw a couple of picks in this, but then you've got Ayamano, who's one of the best wide receivers in the country. This comes down to who has the more balanced offense. Stanford able to run the ball a bit better, but both quarterbacks throwing picks galore like they're at a sweet shop. But Cal McCord he can't win a game on his own throwing the ball without a run game.
No. He was put in too many situations where on short yardage, having to throw. And like I say, you can't trust the third and the fourth down. You don't want to be throwing the ball. You just want to take the easy option and just run it and convert it. And yeah, the interceptions, there were some really poor throws, like I say, when he committed them. The ones where you want them back, like I say, he knows he shouldn't have done it and he loved them back. And in the end, yeah, it cost them. And in the end, Stanford, why did they win? Special teams. Kicker was money. All of his kicks in the end would prove to be the difference.
Yeah, it's just one of those things you're going to hear about it all the time. You're going to hear about turnovers, you're going to hear about special teams. Just these little things, especially in these 2 point games, make a lot of difference. But I don't know what to make of Stanford this year so far. You just figure they're always limited by their defense, but on a day like this, when they make enough plays, they can beat anybody if they want to. They're just way too inconsistent. But for Syracuse, that's a bad loss. Like this ACC is wide open, and they've now got to dig themselves out of a hole. Going up next, and this was probably the biggest one of them all outside of maybe Monmouth doing theirs. Kansas State, ranked number 13, 7.5 point road favorites against the Brigham Young Cougars.
Didn't just lose, they
Lost. Kansas State 9, BYU 38. And I don't really even know where to start on this one because, get this, BYU had 241 yards of offense compared to Kansas State's 416. Jake Retzlaff threw 15 of 21 for 132 yards and 2 touchdowns. But then they had, what was it, 109 yards going at 4.3 yards per carry. Not particularly big, but what are we talking about again, Ryan? Turnovers.
if you count the fourth downs, there's 6 turnovers given away, yeah.
3 fumbles, only 1 was lost, but 2 interceptions thrown by Avery Johnson, who had a bit of a rough one here. And then you're going on to your defense and your special teams to make play here. So there was a scoop and score from BYU, and there was a punt return from BYU. That's like about a 60-yarder in there. I think it was Parker Kingston who got that one there, but this was not particularly a great performance by BYU. But we talk again, defense, special teams, points off turnovers, huge in this. And Kansas State, this is not like them. Chris Kleiman teams don't turn the ball over all the time. They don't play sloppy football. But on this one, it just goes to show. We say the Big 12 is the most competitive of the power conferences right now. And this just kind of shows you why. This was a ranked team, one of the favorites, get absolutely whooped by a team who was predicted to finish right near the bottom.
Yeah, a very uncharacteristic Wildcats performance. And for BYU, life was just made too easy. Kansas State turned over on downs. They went 0-3 on fourth downs. So three extra possessions for BYU, and a lot of them good field position. Like I said, so they were working with short yardage at midfield half the time. So that makes life a lot easier for you. Like I said, they had the ball for nearly 7 minutes less, and they won by 29 points. So yeah, six turnovers, uh, 17 attempts at third down for Kansas State. Like I say, their second down plays just crucified them. Like I say, their third downs, they were just too long. And they were putting Avery Johnson in positions where he was forcing plays because they were at third and long. And that is not where you want to be. And that leads to then fourth downs, turnovers. So yeah, everything on offense was just not clicking. Like I said, their early downs were bad. They were leaving them in holes, and then they were panicking. And in the end, yeah, it was very sloppy. And BYU, yep, weren't great. Didn't need to be. They just played clean football, and they just looked a gift horse in the mouth and said thank you for the gifts, because they got plenty of them and made sure they score. Like I said, two penalties as well for 20 yards. BYU will not play a cleaner game all year. They didn't have to do anything. They didn't get penalised. They didn't turn it over. Bought less time. Scored nearly 40 points. It's a perfect day. The coach will have been relaxed for the entire thing.
Yeah, exactly. And it just goes to show the unpredictable nature of this all. It can happen on any given week, and the Big 12 is just so impossible to call out on there. We've
And
still
now
got a,
K-State, like I said, they've got to rebound, and
yeah,
not a good weekend to rebound.
there's no easy fixtures in the Big 12. Like at home, away, there's no relief for you. Like, you look at the teams at the bottom, BYU, Arizona State, having good wins this year. There's just no gimmies whatsoever. There's still more upsets on here. So talking about wasted opportunities to establish yourself, I mean, Northern Illinois coming off that famous win at South Bend, ranked 23, ranked for the first time in well over a decade at number 23 at home, 13-point favorites to the Buffalo Bulls, and they go down 23-20 in overtime after seemingly holding. I mean, going into the fourth quarter, they were 17-10 up at the beginning, but they were looking very comfortable. Buffalo were not doing anything at all. But then all of a sudden, a breakout 36-yard run for a touchdown and a field goal held it up, and Northern Illinois had to chase this at the end. They only got into extra time because they hit a field goal, basically a walk-off one from 27 yards to go. They really struggled because they had this game flipped, but Buffalo held their nerve. Only needed a field goal. They were able to stop Northern Illinois, and then they just required the field goal to win. 37 yards. Cool as you like. Upton Bellenfant, who was great on the day for them. He hit from 42 twice, hit from 37 in a clutch one to win that there. The Buffalo kicker comes through, but like Northern Illinois were winning this all game, had it in the palm of their hands, and then just like that, all that hard work, that win at Notre Dame, all that momentum, you lose the MAC to someone like this, and it just wipes out everything good you've done, really. This'll sting more than a lot of these other teams.
Yeah. Talk about, like, say, Jekyll and Hyde. No one will remember the Notre Dame win now this year. All they'll remember is the week later, you lost to Buffalo. And yeah, it feels like one step forward, two step back, because it means to me you got complacent, you got too big for your bridges. You went into next week and you looked past your opponent towards next week, and they rightly punched you in the face and they made you pay for it. And then, like I say, the fans and they'll be like, yeah, like I say, we were right. They are frauds. Like I say, it wasn't a great win last week. Notre Dame were just bad. It kind of just puts a sour taste in everything that came before it, because you don't back it up with the games you should win. It's all about the games you should win, not the games that you get big upsets in. You've got to beat the teams in and around you.
Yeah, absolutely, you do. So yeah, bad loss for Northern Illinois there. Utah State favored by 6.5 on the road to Temple. Got absolutely obliterated 45 to 29. Temple have not looked good this year. That is a bad loss for Utah State there. And then we talk about teams having a big win, having a lot of momentum, and throwing it away like Northern Illinois. You've got the Memphis Tigers.
Yeah.
11-point road favorites against the Navy midshipmen. And this was a 100-point game. 56 of them went to Navy, and one of the most outstanding defensive performances you will ever see. Navy linebacker Colin Ramos, 20 tackles, 2 tackles for a loss, a sack, and a forced fumble. These service academies create linebackers who hit like fridges but move like crazy. But Memphis go get that big signature win over Florida State. You come into the American full of confidence, full of vigor, you're wanting that playoff spot. You come to the midshipmen who've been, let's just say, a little bit average the last few years. They've not given anyone much cause for concern. And this is another game. We keep coming back to it. Navy, 586 yards of offense, 404 yards on the ground. Do you know their yards per play for Navy? 11. 11 yards per play for a service academy who predominantly run the ball. But in credit to them, they threw for 205 yards on this one. Their quarterback, Blake Horvath, was 9 of 12 for 179 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's nearly 13 yards per play. They were hitting them downtime big field on this one, but this was just crazy all over. Navy held a big lead throughout this route, and Memphis were playing from behind. Seth Hennigan went 32 of 55, 370 yards, 2 touchdowns. They had 200-yard rushers. Mario Anderson, 112 yards, 3 touchdowns. Brandon Thomas, 12 carries, 125 yards, touchdown. Both teams moved the ball really well. Memphis had 726 yards of offense, but unfortunately, right, when you come up against a team who runs on you for over 400 yards, clock management, time, and I mean, just clap to Navy for this. What a win for a service academy. But for Memphis, God, they are going to be kicking themselves. You get this signature win over Florida State, and now you've automatically put yourself on the back foot in the American.
Yeah. Crazy game. When you think about how Navy ran on, when your Navy ran the ball so much, but Memphis had the ball for nearly 11 more minutes. That's kind of crazy, like say that time of possession stat, when you think about one of their teams ran the ball on. So I say Blake Horvath, his quarterback rating this year in the conference play is 235.7. I didn't even know you could get a quarterback rating that high. Like I said, he has got 7 rushing touchdowns on the year in
Yeah.
3 less carries than all of last season rushing. That's crazy. He is probably the best rusher in the country right now. If you add in the running backs, he might be the most productive of everyone in the nation right now, just in pure touches. Like I say, that is ridiculous. And yeah, Navy are 3-0. And it's not even a fluke because you look at them, they've scored 45, 56, and 38. They are laying waste to teams, and they're doing it on the air and in the ground. And this is not the same midshipman that we know and love in recent years. This is a balanced team. And like I say, they're going out there and beating likes of Navy. And
Have you,
maybe we have to consider they're a real AAC contender, which I would have never thought. Like I said, they're firmly in that title race this year, and that is going to be really interesting. But yeah, for Memphis, like I say, rinse and repeat what I just said for NIU. Massive win. Like I say, yes, I expect. We all picked Memphis to beat FSU. Like I say, but I didn't. Like I say, but then I didn't think they'd go follow it up with like I say 100-point combined loss to Navy. Like I say, I thought they'd just have too much for them. But in the end, yeah, they just kind of folded like a deck of cards.
did you see Blake Horvath's stat line? 10 carries, 224 yards, and 4 touchdowns. So he's running at 22.4 yards per clip, and he's getting a touchdown roughly once every two runs. I mean, that's crazy numbers, right? And again, throws for 180 yards on 9 completions. They say he's having a great season. But can you imagine being the Memphis offensive coordinator? Your team has just put down 730 yards of offense and you've lost. That'd be one of those where you give the daggers to the DC when you're walking back in at the end of the game, right?
Yeah. Had the ball for nearly 40 minutes and they lost. They somehow lost.
Service teams usually dominate time, and they did. They just,
Nope.
it's inexplicable.
Navy actually scored too fast.
Yeah.
And that is something you're never going to hear us say again.
Now, Brent goes, Anthony's loving this part way too much. Maybe, but I mean, you've got to admit, Brett, Army are going to have their hands full when Navy come to town. I don't know where it's been played this year, but I mean, this is a win for service academies. Like, we want the service academies to be good. The American is better when the service academies are good. So, Navy, absolutely kudos
I
to
want
them
Air
there.
Force to move to the AC. I want all the service
Yeah,
teams in one conference. And then you can
yeah,
just have, like, say, the Commander-in-Chief's trophy, and they're all conference games. So they all
yeah.
mean something in a title race as well.
Yeah, and you get the extra Army game because they want to keep the fixture after the season. So you could technically get it twice in one year, I think. But anywho, yeah, if they reach the title game, you'll get twice in one week. That'd be weird to see how that works if Army and Navy ever finish first and second and they get to the title game because they are stonewalling their fixture for after the season. So you'd have to play it twice. But I don't know what it'd do for the Commanders in Chief. I guess the championship game wouldn't count for the Commanders in Chief trophy. I guess you'd rather win the American than that, but I don't
Yeah.
know. Fun things to think about. So that's it for the dark horses there, and then the Survivor Suite. Not as many this week, but you can drop into this, and there's some absolute slobber knockers that happened in this. Another 100 plus point game. We were not kidding when they said there were that many of them there, but you have Washington State, who were 12.5 point home favorites against San Jose State. And this one finished 54-52 in favor of Washington State. And I mean, we were talking big about Washington State last week, and a win is a win, and this is going to count on their record. They're doing well considering they're out of conference at the moment. But I mean, a hell of a game. This went to double overtime, I believe it was, because they kept going at one another. But we talk about John Mattia. His season carries on being great. Threw the ball 46 times, which probably you don't want him to do, but 374 yards, 4 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He ran for 124 yards off 14 carries with a touchdown as well. So that's 5 touchdowns on the day for him and nearly 500 yards of total offense. But on the other side, you've got Emmett Brown slinging it round. 53 pass attempts for him, 366 yards, 4 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. This basically two lots of like Washington State play air raid. We know that. San Jose State not always known for their ability to air raid it out, but right here basically we had two teams air raiding one another, and it came down to Washington State. They rushed for 243. San Jose State for 127. They both threw for miles, but just maybe the slightly more balanced team won this at the end. But this was a big scare for Washington State, especially now they've won the Apple Cup and there's expectations there for them.
Yeah. They didn't. Like, say, some teams don't always react the best. Like, say, you come into a season, everyone's like, oh, yeah, watch out for them. So, like, say, stacking wins, like, say, massive win at Washington, you win the Apple Cup. John Mateer's playing some. I'd say he's one of the better quarterbacks in the nation right now. Actually, he definitely is because he's running the ball just as well as he's throwing it. Like I say, he's got some good weapons, really well coached, good OC. Suddenly they're like, oh, maybe we can really do this. And then sometimes like, oh, we can really do this. Oh crap, we've got some pressure on us now. And then yeah, SJSU just dragged them into a horrible dogfight. And in the end, like you say, it takes double overtime. It's not a place you want to be in double overtime because where you're forced with the rules of college, you're forced to go for the 2 pointers. It's very easy to be leading in a game, have a massive lead, get drawn into overtime, and blow it pretty quickly. So you've got to be really careful with how these rules work. But yeah, it's never dull with them, is it? It don't feel like the Cougars play anything dull this year. And maybe sometimes that it's not always their credit. Sometimes they're a bit little loose and a little slack of how they play. But yeah, credit for dodging a potential big banana skin. But yeah, they were certainly won by the skin of their teeth.
I mean, 177 scrimmage plays in this, over 100 passes thrown. Like, you kind of ideally don't want to be doing that in a game, like 100 pass attempts. But I guess when you go to double overtime, you can do it. But again, Washington State, 680 yards of offense. I mean, San Jose State had 500. The teams statistically were going crazy this week. And again, just kind of comes down to turnovers. Special teams play, I mean, we talk about starting field position. San Jose State, their own 47, they started all their drives from. Again, another team who pin deep. You can't run the ball out as well. You get good field position, some really good returns in this game. Hence why they were able to hang around so long. But Washington State was starting at their own 40. So it's critical, these points. But Washington State, what a game. It's terrific. And, kudos to San Jose State for that one. The Mountain West teams are standing up to Oregon State and Washington State, and that is what we want to see. Now, moving on, talking about bullies standing up to superior teams, we go to the SEC and we go to the oft most bullied team in there, and sometimes, butt of a lot of jokes, let's say, Vanderbilt. So Vanderbilt on the road to number 7, Missouri. Missouri favored by 20 and a half points. So 4 scores, basically. 4 scores and what's the phrase? They were favored by in this game. It took them a double overtime to put down the poor Commodores, who were hit by the kicking bug in this one. To be honest, both teams were. But Missouri, to their credit, were able to get out of this break. Cook, 213 yards, 2 touchdowns. Nate Noel had probably his best game as a Tiger, 200 yards from scrimmage on 24 carries. But Ryan, this Vandy team, something seems a little different with them this year. Diego Pavia at the helm has given them a good offense. Like, he threw for 164 yards and a touchdown. He rushed for 100 yards. He's dual threat. The defense is good. It got turnovers to keep them in this game. They fumbled. They got 2 forced fumbles in this one that gave them a 6-point turnover margin. They got 3 sacks to Missouri's just 1. They got 8 tackles for loss in this game. They've got 3 against the pass, 5 against the rush. There is something there with them. It's just their kicker let them down in this one. Both kickers in this. This was an example of weird college kicking, because sometimes they were hitting 50-yarders and sometimes they were missing 30-yarders. But for Vandy, it cost them in the end. And really sad, because I really wanted Vandy to win this one. This would have been a major upset. But Missouri, lucky boys.
Yeah, Vandy just one of those teams where a lot of people, like say as a neutral, they kind of just root for them. Like I say, because they've always been the little brother in the SEC, the kid you pick on. Like you say, the one year you steal his milk at lunch, you take his pocket money because he can't do anything about it. Well, he's fed up. He's pissed off. He's older now. Like you say, he started hitting the gym and he said, no more. He ain't going to be pushed around anymore. And I like that. They finally got a bit of attitude about them. They're finally standing up to teams. And yeah, they're not always winning, but at least they're finally making their presence felt. Like I say, dragging, like I say, what we thought was a great team that's maybe just good, like I say, all the way, and exposing all their flaws and everything that is a bit meh about them. And that, to their credit, to Vandy, it's a half win. It shows they're trending in the right direction. And yeah, the Tigers will just be glad to get that one out of the way. Because for Vandy right now, everyone's going to look at them and think, we need to be a little bit more wary of them than we have been in the past. Probably treat them with a little bit more respect and try to put them away a bit earlier, because they will hang around now. They're a nuisance.
Yeah, I think that is the right way to say it. They are a nuisance, but they're a legitimate nuisance now. Teams don't necessarily want to play them as much. So,
Vandy want the SEC money, but Vanderbilt playing this football in another conference, they probably do better. They probably
yeah,
win more games, but like say, playing in the SEC is a privilege, and it's not something you give up. So, well, it's interesting to see. Like, in the next couple of years, I'd like to see me make some more strides. I'd like to see him, like say, probably a bit more aggressive in the portal, like you
yeah.
say, and in the end, yeah, they will slowly start to turn the screw.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. But Missouri carry on, but they definitely look vulnerable. But that's probably the pressure of being a top 10 team. They're not used to it. Every game now is a trap game. But well done, Vandy. Missouri will be glad to see the back of them. And talking about SEC teams who will be glad to see the back of somebody, I mean, I'm feeling really, really good about our Bowling Green prediction in the MAC because they took Texas A&M all the way, Texas A&M at home, 22.5 point favorites, and ranked 25 against poor little old Bowling Green from the MAC. It ended 26-20, and although, Texas A&M will point to the fact that they were pretty much in front for the entirety of this game, Bowling Green kept hanging around. It was 13-3 to Texas A&M at a half, but then they came out. Bazelak hit this massive pass, like first play of the second half, which absolutely crazy, brought them right back into it. And then Texas A&M couldn't shake them. They got a touchdown soon after that, but then every time Texas A&M scored, Bowling Green scored. Then A&M was sort of reduced to hitting field goals all the time. Bowling Green got one towards the end. They were on a fourth down. They had to try and hit an onside kick to get the ball back because obviously six behind, but they couldn't quite do it. But, Weidman's still either injured or just not playing for them right now. It's Marcel Reed, but the Falcons look plucky this year, right? They're giving everybody they face a game, and this was no different. Going to Texas A&M, it's not easy. And them as 23-point underdogs, very good showing.
Yeah, like you say, I'm going to put this out there: the Aggies below. I think Texas A&M are terrible. Like I say, they're not playing great football. Like I say, Reed's doing okay, but they're just primed. You just know for a fact that the season at point, I think, is going to plummet. They'll collapse on themselves like they always do. But yeah, Bowling Green, Connor Bazelak started last year, coming to this year. Like I say, they take full advantage of every team, like I say, being a free hit. They can just go out there because no one expects them to do anything, get any close, and in the end, yeah, they make Texas A&M work really hard for it. In the end, they get up the line by less than a score, and it's just a glowing indictment of the coaching staff, what they've been doing with the Falcons in recent years. And none of these losses out of conference will affect them because they're going for a title championship game, and they're more bothered about beating the teams they need to beat them, and then putting on good performances against the big boys and just earn a little bit more respect around the country. Another team that like Vandy that used to be a bit of a joke, but
Yeah.
now they're very much not a joke, and they are to be taken be wary of them if they're on your schedule.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the other near upset, UMass favored at home by 20 points basically against lowly Central Connecticut State out the FCS. 35-31. This was close.
Their quarterback
CCSU,
as well, the former UMass 3-year starter.
I know, like how great would that have been if he'd
Oh, if
have
he'd have won that game, that would have been perfect, wouldn't it?
absolutely. Obviously Tyson Fomachan, he did all right there. He seems to have got his groove on, but I try to be very positive about UMass, especially their secondary this year. They're currently 1-3. This was their first win, and that secondary's not been good at all. So I kind of have probably been made to regret that a little bit. But there are a lot of new guys in there. Maybe they'll get better as the season goes on. But yeah, the Blue Devils, Central Connecticut, well done to them. Nearly pulling off the big upset there. Let's move down into the pick watch ones. Weirdly enough, none of the 10 made any of the big games there, but there's three ranked games to talk about, more important games. And the first one, everybody pretty much called this. However, I don't know if it was the kind of game you expected. Tennessee at Oklahoma, both ranked. So Tennessee was 6th, Oklahoma were 15th. Tennessee come out 25-15 winners. And we talked about who needed to be better. Like they've got Tennessee have an elite offense, Oklahoma have an elite defense. Which unit of the ball was going to support their team and, be able to be sort of the best unit against that? And it turns out that it was the Tennessee defense that was a lot better than the Oklahoma offense. Poor Jackson Arnold got harassed within an inch of his life whilst he was playing. There were 3 sacks on both teams, but they were chasing him all over. He got pulled after a quarter and a half because they'd done with him. They put in the true freshman Michael Hawkins Jr., who also, had a rough day, but he was 11 of 18, 109 yards and a touchdown. Jackson Arnold, bless him, 7 of 16, 50 yards and an interception on the day. But this was not as close as they made it out to be, right? That Oklahoma defense is legit, and they made life tough for IR Malieva. There were a ton of turnovers in this. 2 lost fumbles, which Oklahoma recovered. 2 turnovers there. But Oklahoma's side, they had 3 turnovers, 4 fumbles, 2 of which they lost, an interception. It was a messy game, but Tennessee always looked in charge in this one. And Oklahoma, they look dog rough on offense, and they're going to struggle. And their defense, I think, lost at least 3 starters to injury in this game. One of them was really bad. I think it was a broken leg on the field. But dominant win for Tennessee, but there are flaws there with them. And Oklahoma, one side great, one side poor.
Yeah, this game ultimately came down to one thing, and that is the emergence of a new star called Dylan Sampson. The run game for Tennessee, for me, is why they won. I'd say they just chewed up ground and they just took all the pressure off Nico. And Dylan, like I say, going at 6.5 yards a carry, 10 touchdowns. I think he might have just moved ahead of Ashton Jonty in the Heisman race, in the running backs anyway, because Sampson looks like he's going to be a star now. He has put this team firmly on his back. And Oklahoma, unfortunately, they just don't have that, do they? They don't have anyone that's able to take the pressure off any of the quarterbacks. Their leading rusher was going at, like I say, he only had 2 carries for 18 yards. Yeah, but I say their leading rusher, I say 1.8 yards a carry. They gave up on the run game very quickly. Like I said, they barely got any carries. And like I said, they've now announced Michael Hawkins Jr. as the starter this week, haven't they? They've benched Jackson Arnold. Yeah, which is pretty brutal indictment.
He's a true freshman. They have benched him after less than half a game of SEC play for a true freshman.
Yep. It makes you think they've quickly realized this was a mistake starting him. It was too soon. Oh, let's quickly undo it. But all you've really done now is probably smash his confidence into the ground, because it's unlikely now, unless there's an injury, that you can't put him back out there now, can you?
No.
Because you're saying what kind of message you're sending out to him. You're giving him mixed signals. So now you've benched him. You kind of got to leave him benched.
But I mean, what an opportunity
And
for
now,
the true
like I
freshman.
said, at the end of the year, Jackson Arnold, I reckon he's going to hit the portal.
Yeah, but Michael Hawkins can make a brand for himself now. True freshman in the SEC, starts a full season.
Like I say, he just gets another crack at the whip now. So yeah, like I say, but instantly another guy that's going to come under true scrutiny straight away as well. Like I say, yeah, it's going to be who handles it better out of 2 freshmen, who is going to take the put it on their shoulders better and deal with the pressure they're going to be under. But yeah,
I tell you,
this is where Oklahoma probably season starts to see the cracks forming already.
tell you one player who does look good though, which is big for Tennessee. Brew McCoy's back to his usual self.
Yeah,
4
after a bad
receptions,
injury
4
last year, I think he
catches.
broke his leg or broke his ankle. The Lions should be looking at him. 6'3", 210 pounds. Like I say, yeah. I just need him to have one season where he plays 12, 13 games.
Yeah.
And he'll have great numbers, yeah. And if he does it the year before the draft, he's going to declare this year. And he, like you say, typical prototypical X.
Yeah, exactly. So it looks great. And you know what? I'll give kudos to Oklahoma's defense. 12 tackles for loss, 4 against the pass, 8 against the rush, 3 sacks, forced fumble, kept IR Malieva quiet for the most part. He was just hitting deep shots all day.
Is he Danny Stutzman?
Yeah, they're
a lot
linebacker.
say he's going to he's for first round pick next year. A lot say.
Yeah. Stutzman, he's amazing. He will definitely go first round if he carries on doing what he does. But that defense looks tremendous, and that is what will win Oklahoma any more games this year, depending on how the true freshman does. And we both got that one right. So we did well there. The next one, number 11 USC against number 18 Michigan. Michigan winning 27 to 24. And I love this because I call Lincoln Riley a big old fraud when it comes to the big games for his teams. He's never won anything because he can't win the big games. He comes to Michigan, who are the most vulnerable they have looked in this year. Let's make no mistake, their offense looks awful. They are not passing it. They are not running the ball well. And outside of Khalil Mulling's been an absolute stud, they look like they've got nothing. Alex Orji, 7 of 12, 32 passing yards. That was it. Khalil Mullings, 160 yards, 2 touchdowns, going at 9.3 yards per carry, had the big runs that he needed to. Donovan Edwards cracked off a big one as well. He had 74 yards, a touchdown, although he lost a fumble like an idiot. On the other side, Miller Moss, forced to throw 51 times. Again, don't want your quarterbacks to be doing that. 255 yards, 4 touchdowns, and an interception for him. Woody Marks, he's Jaquavius Marks. I don't know why he's called Woody, but yeah.
I don't know why it's called that.
They've changed it to Woody, but Jaquavius Marks, 13 carries, 100 yards. That's fine. But that was pretty much it for the run game. They didn't run outside of that. But okay, I'm interested to hear you on this because you said USC weren't too bad in this. I think this is a massive indictment on Lincoln Riley. He cannot beat a bad Michigan team that are there to be had. These are the games he's got to win if he wants to legitimize himself, and he lost again. And Michigan looked terrible. Their defense looks great, and that's why I picked them to win it because they got enough turnovers to do so. But what did you make of this one?
I think USC were the better team, 55-45, but in those high pressure moments, I mean, the game came down to one play, didn't it? It's Miller Moss zeroing on the receiver, and what does Will Johnson do best? Jumps the route, takes it to the house, and for me, there we go. That's the whole game changed, didn't it? USC had all the momentum. Like you say, they've been up and down, they marched up and down the field, they scored when they had to. Miller Moss played a perfectly clean game, but made one crucial mistake. And when he came off the field, you could tell he was devastated. And he realised, I might not get a chance to rectify that. Yeah. And yeah, that one play, yeah, it killed them. And they were not able to recover from it. Like I say, Michigan's defense as a whole, yeah, it was brilliant. Like I say, but like I say, USC's defense, just as good and impactful. Zach Gentry, like I say, a sack, a forced fumble, a recovery. He was absolutely everywhere. Like I said, their defense, their edge rushers, like I said, they were causing havoc in the backfield. The Michigan O-line in pass pro, it was struggling. Like I say, USC were getting pressure. Like I said, they were getting to him, like I said. But yeah, the run game and the defense bailed Michigan out. USC, yeah, they're going to kick themselves out there. A game that they probably could have won because they just had more offense in general. And like I say, Lincoln Riley is going to look at this one and think, massive opportunity lost. Like I say, a lot of things they could have done better at. Like I say, the quarterback will always take the blame. But yeah, apart from one mistake, he did everything he could have done. Like I say, the run game was okay. Yeah, coaching, like I say, some bad missed tackles on the USC. Like I say, the big Donovan Edwards run right through the middle, just absolutely knifed them right through. Like I say, so yeah, it was a great. Honestly, it was my favorite game of the weekend. Didn't have to be high scoring. It was just tense.
It's like Lincoln Riley said, 47 runs against them, 43 of them they played perfectly. And 4 of them
Just
they
that small
didn't.
percentage, like say, of players, like say, 2 or 3 players that define an entire game. Just lack of concentration or things like that.
It is crazy where this D-line's playing for, because Bear Alexander's not playing. Like,
Yep.
he's not getting game time. You're like, how the hell is he not in that team? If he's not playing, and there's 4 guys in front of him they consider to be better, that's like, it's crazy. But, like, so where does this fall? Like, the offense did all right, but it's, again, stout defense. Kenneth Grant is and Mason Graham are absolutely tremendous. They were causing havoc in this one, and there was a reason, that Miller was only completing half of his passes, really. He's under pressure a lot of the time. Like you say, Will Johnson, more career pick sixes than touchdowns given up. He's given up two career touchdowns, I believe, when he's targeted. He has three pick sixes. That's just how ridiculously great he is. Injured now as well. I've not heard the injury update on him yet, but he left this game before the end, as did Colston Loveland, who is hurt as well. So that's a couple of big injuries for them, especially Loveland on the offense. They struggled without him. He's one of the best tight ends in football. It's like Iowa losing Laporta a couple of years ago. He was all they had. But it's where does the blame fall? Like the offense was all right, the defense was good. Is it coaching? Because once again, he's choked when he's played a big team. Even despite the fact that the first time in there, it seems like he's got a good defense, he still can't win.
I suppose you've got to put it down to coach. Yeah, it's coaching because the fact is they lacked discipline and lacked concentration on critical downs, and they allowed just a handful of explosive 20+ yard players that changed the game, and ultimately that'll trickle down from coach to player. Yeah, so the players, coach is down, the coaches may have put them in bad position to begin with, huge opportunity missed, and it's going to be hard to kind of like say now win that trust back of the Trojans fans because a lot of them, like say, were devastated in that game. They were like, "We're going to win. We're here. We're going to silence Mr. Brightside," like say, because there were big pockets of them. And if they'd have won, it's all everyone would be talking about. It'd be the biggest road win Lincoln Riley's ever had. But now it'll just be what could have been. And
Yeah,
yeah, Michigan, like say, will take all the credit because again, in spite of QB play, like I say, they still find ways to win big games. And I might say that's coaching, isn't it?
yeah.
When you don't have a quarterback that you can rely on, coaches, like say, Sharon Moore looks at ways to get the job done without relying on a signal caller. And that's supreme coaching.
It is, and a half, and some standout running back. I mean, the Big Ten this year, you got Khalil Mullins, you got Caleb Johnson, you got Kyle Monangai. I mean, like you're not even getting into players like Travion Henderson and Nick
Darius
Singleton and
Taylor,
stuff
like say,
like
you're not
that.
even
Darius
looking at guys
Taylor.
like that, yeah.
No, it's crazy, but these running backs are like Caleb Johnson single-handedly helping Iowa's season. They could be winless now without him. Monagai has been an absolute beast. I'll talk about him in a minute, but yeah, Michigan just have a way to win. That's why I picked them there. Lincoln Riley, he's
Makes
this.
you wonder how long do you persist with Orgy?
Well,
Is there a
they've
plan
yeah,
C?
yeah. I don't even know who's on that roster outside of that. I
No, so it's
guess
really difficult. Like I say, it's really hard in it. It's like it feels like they're
what
just going to have to keep plowing ahead.
what I would have done was bring in Davis Warren at the end of that game because they were. I mean, they'll point to the fact that they got the big run at the end where they got the touchdown, but to that point, they were just punting all the time because they were run, run, run. And they were not even trying to pass the ball. It was like, surely you bring Davis Warren in and try and pass for a few first downs and relieve the pressure on your defense, but they didn't. But what is it, Minnesota this weekend coming?
Yeah,
Like, I don't know what those are, but
it's going to be another defensive battle running the
yeah,
ball in it.
they're a tough nut to crack. Iowa cracked them because they've got a star running back, and that's what Michigan might do with them, but they're hard to crack otherwise. So, and if you're
It's going to be
behind
an
against
interesting,
them,
gritty game. Like I said, the Trojans on the round get a Wisconsin with no Tyler Van Dyke.
yeah.
They need to go out there and need to win big.
Yes. Because again, that's what matters, right? Like I say, four big runs, one pick six. That's what that game comes down to. That's it. Like one of those plays goes another direction. Even one of them, either one of the big runs or the pick six, they win. Fine margins, that's what championship teams have to do, and they don't quite have it yet. The other ranked one in this, which we both got wrong, and pretty much everyone got wrong, number 12 Utah heading to number 14 Oklahoma State. Ugly would be the way to win this, but Utah kind of controlled this throughout. Oklahoma State had a really late touchdown, but again, I think they needed a onside kick they couldn't get. Utah win 22-19, and Utah are playing Utah football. Right, Ryan, at the moment, 268 yards on the ground, just 207 through the air. Young Isaac Wilson, Zach's brother, threw a couple of picks, but he still looks decent. He looks Cam Rising-ish in terms of the stats he's putting up. And then the defense just doing what it does well. It doesn't, two interceptions, few tackles for loss, very stout against the run, just 56 rushing yards for Oklahoma State. Ollie Gordon limited to 11 carries and 42 yards, which is probably where this turned. And then Alan Bowman was Alan Bowman, 16 of 33, which is less than 50%, 198 yards, two touchdowns, two interceptions. This was a win for the Utah defense, methinks again, and that's why I hate picking against them because the defense can nullify any team on a day, but to keep Ollie Gordon quiet, no one does that really. Big kudos to that defense again, and that's a massive win for them now.
Yeah, like I said, that was a huge win for them. And Utah have they've got a brand of football on there. Like I
Yeah,
say, it's not their quarterback, it's defense and rushing. Like I say, look at Micah Bernard. Like I say, he's now stacked games of 118, 123, and 182 yards. He's going at like 6.5, 7 yards carry in his last three games. Actually, he's having a phenomenal year that no one's talking about at all, the Utah running back, and he destroyed Oklahoma State. Like I say, he put the game on his back. He took the pressure off the young man, Isaac Wilson, and said, "Don't worry about it, kid. I've got you. Just keep handing the ball off to me." Like I say, turn it a few times. You tried to make as little mistakes as possible, and I'll win as the game with the defense. And it came down to night one. And Alan Ball, like I say, a veteran who's had a really good year, like I say, let himself down. Like I say, this game was there to be taken. It would have been a massive win for them. But when it mattered most, yeah, over 50%, two turnovers, and yeah, just no offense generated. The Utah defense just smothered them, and in the end, kind of just suffocated the life out of them. He didn't honestly, Wilson. He could have done a lot worse. He could have thrown a couple more picks. Oklahoma State probably still don't win because the defense were that good, and like I say, time of possession, things like that. Just everything. Like I say, 42 minutes and 26 seconds, Utah had the ball.
yeah,
Oklahoma had the ball for, let's call it a quarter,
yeah.
just over a quarter. That's how little they could do.
I mean, isn't
You
it
can't you
crazy?
can't win football games. It's impossible, really.
Isn't it crazy, like you say, how Micah Bernard is not getting talked about at all? That is kind of the high level of running back play this year. That guys like him are
Yeah.
just ignored.
6.9 yards per carry through 4 games. And I
Yeah.
heard anyone mention him.
And Utah have had one of the tougher schedules out of them all. They've played ranked opposition, they've played bona fide opposition, they've played Baylor as well. They're 2-0 in the Big 12 now, so they've not had four cupcakes. So
Nope.
that means something to them. So, Utah, really good for them. OK State go back to the drawing board again. They'll have to do a lot better. But again, this Big 12, you just never know what's going to happen. Who have we got next down here? Tulane 41 to 33 winners over Louisiana. I think everyone except Ash picked that one. Tulane were bouncing back after that narrow loss against Oklahoma, but Green Wave look good this year, Brian. Despite all they've lost, they're still scoring a hell of a load of points. They are 2-2 on the year, but say they were ranked loss. They were Power Four losses for both of them, so nothing really for them to be unduly concerned about. But Darian Mensah, like he didn't really have to do anything this week. It was 280 yards on the ground, 51 through the air, but it was enough. Again, Mackie Hughes. We talk about young guys who are not doing well. 166 yards, touchdown for him, 7 yards per carry. All you need is a star running back, right? It's that easy.
Yep. Like I say, sometimes football is as easy or as difficult as you want to make it. And right now, despite the record to learn, yep, they're making life as easy as they can for themselves by, like I say, one star kid, like I say, that's literally just said, I'm gonna go out there, I'm gonna play as little mistake-free football as I can. Like I say, he's having just a great year and is leading them to big wins. And like I say, it's a team that in recent years we've seen it's been good. It's been a victim of its own success. Pratt, like I say, actually got drafted, actually made it to an NFL roster. And that is a glowing indictment of how well the Green Wave have done and got him prepared at his older age to actually make it to the NFL and make it. Like I say, it says a lot about them and their coaching staff and the talent that's been and gone and passed through the doors. And yeah, still managing to win football games, play entertaining football, and they'll always be there and about. And you look at their two losses. Oklahoma and Kansas State, like, let's be honest, no one's going to begrudge them for them at the end of the year, are they? Like, so their season won't be defined by them. But when they get in their own conference play, I expect them to be competitive every single week.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So we'll see how well they do. Talking about teams who may be competitive every week in their conference, you know, how good might Rutgers be this year? Rutgers go on the road to Virginia Tech. They go to Blacksburg. Obviously, you've got, all everything there, the atmosphere and how they're playing. But they go there, and Athen Kaliakmanis, I'm going to have to eat a load of humble pie here again. 16 to 25, 251 yards, no touchdowns, but more importantly, no interceptions for him. Just doing enough through the passing game. And then Samuel Brown and Kyle Monangai, 144 yards and three touchdowns between them, and a defense which doesn't post flashy stats. They just had three tackles for loss against the run. They did have one pick on the day, which was quite crucial near the end, but this finally looks like a Rutgers team, which is good on both sides of the ball. And I'm intrigued to see how high they're going to go this year. But, the Rutgers train is up and running now. This is their signature win they needed after two cupcake ones. But it's not an easy place to go and win. And they did very well.
No, they've kind of building a little bit of a bit of momentum, a bit of steam. Like you say, Ethan, he's playing the best football of his career right now. Like I say, touchdown ratio of 6.1, 6 to 1, 62.5% completion percentage. He only got 53 and 54 at Minnesota, and he only threw for 14 touchdowns. He's already nearly halfway to that for 3 games. He's going to smash all of career's numbers. And you look at this year, so last year was sacked 21 times. This year, just 3 so far. He has finally been put in a position where he can relax a little bit, show a bit more what he can do. Like say, you don't have to worry about an offensive line crumpling and actually trying to get him murdered. So he's able to work in the pocket a little bit better. He's a bit calmer and seeing the best of him. I suppose it's credit to the system he's been put in and the coaching around him to take a guy and then just like say make him the best version of himself. And yeah, it always helps to have one of the best running backs in the countries. And yeah, the Scarlet Knights, they're never they don't blow a lot of sides away. They're going to be really competitive this year. And yeah, they've got a chance to have what could be a historic year for them. Like I said, they could really go on and 7, 8, 9, 10 wins. Like I say, it don't sound that crazy when you look at it right now.
No, it does not at all. And we're going to talk about them later, so we'll come back to them. How much do you want to talk about ASU's unbeaten streak coming to an end? Any
Well,
any
I
any
predict
any comment? You
no,
predicted it.
I predicted it. Like say everyone was going ASU like, oh no, right. And I was like, nope, I know this will be the weekend. And then drop an egg. Like you say, against a wildly unpredictable Texas Tech. And yeah, I knew it was going to come eventually. Like I say, Sam Levitt had his first dud performance. But yeah, the Texas Tech Red Raiders, fair play to them. They are a real dark horse. They're so chaotic, and you don't know which one's going to get. And it just makes it impossible to plan for them. I say,
Mhm.
Barry can either be terrible or fantastic. And Taj Brooks, yeah, just started the year back for bang as usual. So yeah, I predicted it. Like I say, they've got a good chance to bounce back this weekend, but they can't take it for granted. But yeah, Texas Tech are a kind of sleeper this year. Like I say, that I think teams will probably now look at the result they've just got and now be like, okay, well, maybe we need to pay a bit more attention to them.
Absolutely. Taj Brooks is always great. Baron Morton looks good, but I mean, one player who might get lost, I don't know if this is his draft year for you, but Scatterboo once again,
Yeah,
60
I'm pretty sure
yards,
I think this is it for him.
60 yards and two touchdowns as a running back, but he went 6 of 6 for 110 yards as a receiver. Like, you show receiving ability in this league. You block, but you talk about all the running backs this year. He might just get completely lost and someone's going to find an absolute basement bargain with him.
Someone will pick him up in the NFL because, like you say, what's the one thing he can do that a lot of guys can't do? Pass block because he's an absolute unmetered and he loves physicality. Like I say, he's able to run, catch, and block. And those are a lot of things that a lot of guys just don't want to do. He's a senior this year, having a great year after a great year last year. Like I say, he'd be crazy not to declare this year. Like I say, he's already at basically 75% of all last year's percentage totals. So he's
Yeah.
going to smash all the numbers and go into the draft with loads of momentum. And ASU will do what they do again. Rashad White, Xavier Valade, Cam Skatiba. They'll find another replacement, and they'll find them because like they're just really that good at it. But yeah, no, he's having a great year and very much warranted. Like I say, honestly, if the Lions, I'd badly see him Detroit. He's everything the Lions love in a running back.
Yeah, yeah. We'll have to do some work on Scatibu when we get there. So I want to say Scatabo. I hate saying Scatibu. It's just one of those little annoying knocks, but that's what the announcers called him, and they know him better than I do. The next one to go to, I should probably put this much higher up the billing board here, but we had the Battle of the Iron Skillet this week, and there was a very clear-cut favourite for this Battle of the Iron Skillet. TCU at SMU. TCU were heavily favoured to go there and win in this one because SMU have been struggling, let's say, with their quarterback situation, but they went with Keaton Jennings. 110 points scored in this. I wasn't lying early when we said all these 100-point games. We had 120, we had 110 as well, and SMU winning, or 108, sorry. SMU 66, TCU 42. And once again, the theme of the day we're talking about turnovers and special teams, especially in the first quarter. In this game, SMU had a 51-yard scoop and score off a fumble. They had a 69-yard punt return touchdown. They had a 60-yard pick six. As special teams went crazy, and more importantly, they forced 4 turnovers out the TCU offense, 3 fumbles and an interception on the day, and they just gave up 1 fumble themselves. But I mean, this was crazy. They scored 66 points, and their starting quarterback, SMU, went 14 of 19 for 137 and 2 touchdowns. That was it. These are not numbers that are going to blow you out the ground. They had just 372 yards of offense, Rye, 66 points. TCU had 575 yards of offense and got 42 points. And what does that tell you? Turnovers and special teams win games. And 2 of those special teams ones came in the first quarter, where SMU quickly established a massive lead, which TCU never got back in this one. But you've got to give credit to this team. They're struggling with the quarterback sitch. Special teams come big. Defense comes big despite giving up 42. And the offense does enough to win this game. And the skillet is back in the hands of SMU. And TCU, their head coach, he got ejected from this game, and I know for a fact SMU fans must have loved that after his defection a couple of years ago. The let's just say the ribbing he took when he was on the way off. I can't repeat what the fans were saying, but it was funny as. I mean, this was another tremendous 100-plus point game, and SMU win the skillet.
Yeah. To be fair though, I saw what it got ejected for. The way he spoke to that official. Wow.
Can't say what he said either.
Even lip sync, like you say, he absolutely went for him, chased him outside line, screamed in his face. Like I say, all because of a decision. Like I say, it was a sequence of events, like I say, a very controversial call, like saying he absolutely lost his mind. And at that point, I knew he was gone. There was no calming him down. But yeah, this game, the scoreline makes you think, like say, oh, this was a great game. This game was over by like half time for me. Like I say, Texas Tech just never recovered. Like I say, Josh Hoover had a stinker, plagued by turnovers again. He just can't get away from them, and they kill him. And yeah, like I say, they're just such a Jekyll and Hyde team, the Horned Frogs. Like I say, great SMU, fair play. Like I say, their year has been tumultuous to say the least. And they came in then absolutely destroyed them, and the fans did not let anyone forget it. Like I said, the only real person that can hand their head high is another guy that the draft next year, Jack Betch, the TCU receiver, having a phenomenal year, and he looks like a really proper physical specimen. Another guy that is going to build a lot of stock this year is, like I say, an ex receiver. Great game, like I said, a phenomenal year. But that's kind of where it stops you. Sloppy play, turnovers, can't run the ball, poor special teams. Like the punt return, like I said, whiff tackles, like I said, blocked too easily. It was all just too easy in the end for that sense. Yeah. In the end, the rightful winners of the skillet got it back.
Yeah, I mean, Jack Beck, 8 catches on 8 targets, 166 yards, 2 touchdowns. Eric McAllister, 6 catches on 6 targets
I
for
think he had
114
I think he had
yards.
200 yards last week, Jack Beck.
Yeah. It was crazy, like, but 76 yards rushing, 415 through the air. Go figure what went wrong with that one. Again, you've got to have a balanced offense. TCU were just chasing all game, couldn't run the ball. SMU knew what was coming, got the turnovers they needed. And again, two defensive turnovers, special teams turnover. That's nearly 30 points there they got off turnovers. So they matter. But the skillet was great. I loved watching it. And again, that SMU crowd got what they wanted. They got to wave their former head coach and turncoat goodbye as
Do
he
we
was
think
off
Sonny
field. But
Dykes is on a warm seat?
yeah, Sonny Dykes is on a warm seat. If he's, like you say, the way he spoke to that official, that could breach his. I mean, what do they have the morality clauses and stuff like that over? So, like, that might breach a morality clause if TCU decide they want to go that way. But I mean, what are they on at the year? They
2-2.
are 2-2, right? So yeah,
They've only
SMU I
played
think are the
one
same
good
as well.
game, really.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm not sure, but it was a wonderful skillet game. Well done for them. Other ones we had in the pick watch, Florida State and Cal. I don't really want to talk about that. 14-9, one of the ugliest games you've seen in your life. And I stayed up till 4:30 in the morning
Credit to
watching that.
FSU.
Yeah,
That was a big win. That was guts. Yeah, I
yeah.
rate them for that. Their
FSU's
defense finally came alive.
Yeah, FSU's defense was really good. That D line finally was what had been
Marvin Jones
promised.
Jr.
Yeah, sealed the game. Farmer looked great. Peyton has his flash moments, although he still has his lazy moments as well. Cal, I was really disappointed with. Like, on offense, there was nothing. They were just hitting field goals all the time, and they were poor as. Interesting one coming up this week, which we will get back to there. Western Kentucky, home winners over Toledo. Talk about teams who were coming off big wins. 26-21. Western Kentucky win that one. Great win there for them and their CUSA chances. Toledo, tough nut to crack. And Iowa, 31-14 winners over Minnesota. And right, all comes down to their running back, right? Caleb Johnson in this. I need to get his stats up again, but I'm pretty sure once again he got over 200 yards for the day. He's got to be up there. I think he's got well over 500 yards on the year already, but Iowa cracked the nut that is Minnesota. Minnesota, Max Brosma looked all right. He threw a couple of picks in this, but they put a lot on him because they couldn't run the ball. Darius Taylor just 34 yards on 10 carries. But yeah, Caleb Johnson, 21 carries, 206 yards, and 3 touchdowns, while Cade McNamara threw 11 of 19 for 49 yards. Literally, there are two starting quarterbacks who won in the Big Ten this week, and they went combined like I think it was 11 of 24 and 80 passing yards, and they both won. Like, that's sick. But Caleb Johnson, man, he's fast rising to maybe one of the best rushers in the nation. He's just taking games over and not been given much and still taking.
Yep. Like I say, this is one of those where Iowa did Minnesota what Minnesota wanted to do to them. They wanted to do defense. They wanted to run the ball. Iowa said no. Like I say, they said, we'll do that to you instead. They went in, took over with, like I say, one of the best running backs in the nation. Gave McNamara, gave them limited opportunities to make any mistakes. Didn't do it, didn't need to. Like I say, a couple of turnovers, like I say, from the secondary of Iowa that's just still elite. It was very easy in the end.
Yeah, absolutely. I sad 'cause I picked Minnesota in that, but it doesn't always happen. I can't remember how we did. I think that was them all. Yes. Are there any other games you want to mention from this week just gone, or anything else you want to sort of mention from those weeks before we quickly go into the pick watch previews?
Yeah, don't think so. It's just a crazy. There was there's a 90-point game. Well, I think this is, I don't know if I've ever seen a week with more than like 80, 90 points games. Kind of
Yeah,
crazy.
there were 3 games that went over 100. I'm pretty sure there. I'm just looking through other ones quickly. Michigan State against Boston College. I mean, we saw the good and bad of Aiden Childs. He's throwing a lot of picks. But they were competitive though. They look better than they have recently, Michigan State, which might bode well for them.
Yeah, in the long term, like I said, some guys saying he's not ready yet. Maybe he's not, but he'll learn on the fly. Yeah, he's going to make a lot of mistakes. It's going to be ugly at times, but yeah, like I say, it's going to be a learning process. You're going to have to be very patient with him.
Yeah, absolutely. Colorado beating Baylor last minute Hail Mary. I mean, I guess good win for Colorado. They were not
Yeah,
fancied
they
in
had
that,
to
but they
bounce
were at
back, didn't
home.
they? So yeah, good win for them, really.
You know what? Click on back to run back stuff. I think next week we should compile a list of who we think the best running backs in college football are. Like maybe a top 15 or something, because we talk about all these guys. There's so many. I want to see how much our opinion differs on them because it's just crazy. We'll have to talk about that, maybe do that next week. But yeah, absolutely wonderful week four, end of the non-cons. We're getting into the business side of it now. So let us quickly move across into that and get these out the way. So the pick watch, I need to actually get it up. So if you just bear with me one moment while I find our little document so that we can fill it in. Um, you're not doing too bad this year, actually. I think you're in second place currently. So where are we? Pick watch. How did we do this week? I went 4-6. You
I
went
went
five
five
and
and five.
five.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I think overall you're doing pretty well. So let's move into this week's fixtures. And I think these are tougher than last week's personally, but we're going into the first one. Washington at Rutgers, Big Ten action. Rutgers favored by 2.5. Washington are 3-1, wins over Weber State, Western Michigan, and Northwestern. The one loss came in the Apple Cup to Washington State. And I must admit, I still don't know a great deal about Washington this year. Rutgers, just talked about them. They are 3-0 with wins over Howard, Akron, and Virginia Tech. And we talk about how far Rutgers can go in the Big Ten this year. This is a good opener for them to see where they're at because you've got to figure Washington don't look the best this year. And if Rutgers want to make most of this talent they've got, Washington have struggled against the run. We saw it with Michigan last year. This feels like the game they've got to win for us to really start going, oh, wow, Rutgers are something this year. Can they do it, or are Washington going to upset them?
Uh, I think Rutgers can cause Will Rogers some problems and give him a headache this week. I'm going to take the Scarlet Knights.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Rutgers as well. I had them last week. I'm very confident in their ability to be able to win this, but I'm pulling for them, especially because I've been so mean to Calliot Manis. Come on, Athen, keep proving us right. Okay, the big one out of them all going into this week. Number 2 ranked Georgia at number 4 ranked Alabama. Georgia, 2.5 point favorites on the road. Bama are 3-0. They've beaten Western Kentucky, South Florida, and Wisconsin. They are coming off a bye. Georgia also 3-0. They've beaten number 17 Clemson, Tennessee Tech, and that incredibly narrow and lucky victory against Kentucky. They are also coming off a bye. So both teams are fresh, had the opportunities to work out on whatever kinks they've had. Georgia are going to Tuscaloosa, right? I mean, this is as hard as it gets. Georgia, Bama, the stakes are very much real. The SEC is a one big conference this year. They're not separated by divisions anymore. This matters, especially if the Rebs or the Volunteers or somebody go one loss. Who's going to win the early season blockbuster out of Georgia and Alabama?
Uh, Alabama. The emergence of Ryan Williams. I think he's just going to cause that Georgia defense all sorts of problems.
I don't. It's tough, right? I don't. So you've got Bama.
Yep.
See, I look across Bama, Georgia. Like, there's a lot of Georgias in here. There's a few Bamas. I feel like picking Georgia, but like that's the safe option. But I don't know. I don't. I honestly don't know. This is really tough. I feel like I'm just going to have to put my finger down on one here. But I mean, this is a huge game for Carson Beck if he wants to be taken seriously for the Heisman by people like me who were skeptical about him. He needs to win. That Georgia defense is so good. I still feel like Milrose got picks on him, but then they've got the young 17-year sensation at receiver. Can he be? Is it his real breakout game? Right, I'm gonna pick Georgia. Just because I know that Georgia defense is still absolutely legit. And if there's anyone that can go there and shut them down, it's Georgia. But if Bama win, I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest. Next up, we've got Mountain West action, and this takes on a very different complex, this game. Fresno State at UNLV. UNLV favored by 3, wins over Houston, Utah Tech, and Kansas. Fresno State are 3-1. Wins over New Mexico State, Sacramento State, and New Mexico. Their one loss was to number 12, Michigan. But obviously, no Sluka for UNLV. Now, it's going to be Harsh Malik Williams, the old Campbell quarterback. But the go-go doesn't require a passing quarterback. It requires a quarterback who can run the ball, and he can run it some, but I guess they've got a running back room to cover for him if he's not able to do it as much. But the go-go is complex. He might not be able to pick it up. UNLV are at home. Fresno, they've looked good, but they've looked vulnerable as well. Is the turmoil from NIL going to upset UNLV this week, and is Fresno State going to win, Ryan?
Yes. I think Fresno State are gonna. I don't think it's a major. I don't think it'd be that big an upset now. I feel like just throwing a new QB in just kind of just throws you all off. You're not going to ask. You're not going to want him to throw the ball at all, really. Not on such short notice.
No. See, I believe in Bob Odom and I believe in Brennan Marion. That offense is so hard to
I think
combat.
they were just fine,
And
but
they're
I
at
think
home.
they're vulnerable right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I know where you're from. I'm gonna stick with UNLV. I've hitched my wagon to them. I'm gonna keep with them till they prove me otherwise. But I get you. So we're splitting on that one as well. Um, Team with something to prove. Louisville, number 15, ranked at Notre Dame, ranked number 16. Notre Dame favored by 5.5. Louisville 3-0, beating Austin Peay, Jacksonville State, Georgia Tech. Notre Dame 3-1. Texas A&M, Miami of Ohio, and Purdue the wins, but the home loss to Northern Illinois, Ryan. This is now time for Louisville to show if they're serious this year or not. You've got to figure you want to go and win this one. They've had a decent start to the year. Tyler Shook looks really good in this offense. They're not running the ball as well, though, which might be the issue here. But Notre Dame are vulnerable, and they just change so much from week to week. But have they sort of passed their tough time now, and they're going to beat everyone? Who have you got? Louisville at Notre Dame?
I'm going to regret this. I'm
I
going
can
to take
see you
Notre
want
Dame.
to. Oh?
I think Louisville's one-dimensional offense, like say against ball hawking safeties, Tyler Shook can't play perfect football against them, surely. And then I know he's prone to some major collapses. So I'll take a gritty game. I'll take the Fighting Irish. I think they can
See,
shut the quarterback down.
I get entirely where you're coming from. See, that's the problem. It's just, I really want Louisville to do well. And I feel like this could be the game, but it just does feel like a Notre Dame game to win. Notre Dame usually get upset by the G5 teams at home. So I'm with you. We'll split there. A couple of people decision on that. UNC at Duke. Duke favored by 4.5 at home. They've
Give
beaten
me Duke.
Elon. Okay, he doesn't even need his. He doesn't even
Give
need.
me Malik Murphy. Give me that defense as well. That is forcing loads of turnovers.
Brent goes the Fighting Irish are frauds. He's picked Louisville.
I know they
I
are,
wonder
but
why.
I don't like either of them.
Oh, I wonder why Brent, the Michigan fan, thinks that Notre Dame are frauds. I wonder why. No, it escapes me. I've no idea why. Okay, that's very easy then. So I'm with you. I like this Duke team.
Star
Um,
Thomas as well, having a great year.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. This is Duke's time to shine, and UNC are very vulnerable right now. Next up, Big Ten action again. Maryland at Indiana. Now, people might say on the front, why have I picked this? Indiana are 7-point favorites. Indiana 4-0 on the year, beating Florida International, Western Illinois, UCLA, and Charlotte. Maryland are 3-1, wins over UConn, Virginia, and Villanova, with a loss coming against
They really
Michigan
struggled against
State.
Villanova.
They did. But, and I mean this with the greatest of due respect, I've put this in here because it's Indiana football and they look really good under Kurt Signetti, and Curtis Rourke is having himself a season and a half. But Maryland on their day can beat most teams in the Big Ten, and they've shown a tendency this year. They've been bad, but they've been good. And this smacks of ultimate trap game. Now, I've backed Indiana at UCLA this year and they won. Is there an upset here, or is Kurt Signetti's Indiana different from the rest of them and gonna cover as a favorite?
Like, I like what Indiana's doing running the ball. I'm going to take the Hoosiers.
I am as well, and
They've got a deep running back room.
I know it's going to be the one I regret at the end of this week, but I'm going Indiana as well, so we'll see with that one next. This is the battle of quarterbacks that I've had lined up from the start of the year, but it's kind of been squiffed by one of the results this weekend. Liberty at Appalachian State. Liberty favored by 3.5 on the road. They're 4-0. They've beaten Campbell, New Mexico State, UTEP, and East Carolina. App State are 2-2. They've beaten East Tennessee State and Eastern Carolina. They've lost to number 17 Clemson, and then that massive blowout last week at home against South Alabama, sorry, and they've been lost to Clemson. This is Caden Salter versus Joey Aguilar. This is one of the best quarterback matchups you will find all weekend anywhere, even in the Power Four. These are two guys with big arms who like to sling the ball out, and this is going to be an absolute slobber knocker of a game. Liberty are just a juggernaut, beating everybody left, right, and center. App State have not started well, Ryan, admittedly. But we know they have a good team there on both sides of the ball. And if it comes out and plays complementary football, there are not many teams who will beat them at home, let alone in that big blowout fashion of last week. Can they rebound this week and somebody finally take down the Flames? Or are Cade and Salter and crew going to come in and wreck stuff up?
No, this is not App State's week. I expect them. They're going to ship a lot of points again.
I mean, I guess Caden Solder, Quinton Cooley. It's if South Alabama can rush for 360 on, and then Liberty could probably do 460. Is that the logic there?
Yep, because they've got, like say, they can't stack the box, like say, because they've got to respect, like say, Kane Salter. Like say, that means Cooley's going to have all the world in the room, all the room in the world to cause havoc.
Yeah. I hate Brent. Brent, if you're listening to this, he's put Liberty, 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 and now I've got that thing stuck in my head. I hate you, Brent. Don't do that. This is why I finish last in the pick watch every year, because I get feelings which are completely unfounded, which I end up regretting, but I don't know. Something's pulling me towards App State, causing the biggest of upsets, because I still do believe in Joey Aguilar and Kanye Roberts and co. I'm going App State upset, and I'm going to be on my own, and I'm going to have a little red box while everyone has a green there, and I'm going to regret it. But, you only live once, so go for it. Sunbelt next. Local derby. Georgia Southern at Georgia State. Betting line is even for this game. The only one that is even. Georgia Southern 2-2 on the year. They've beaten Nevada and South Carolina State. The losses have come against Boise State and number 6 Ole Miss, so no shame in losing either of those. Georgia State are 2-1. They've beaten Chattanooga and Vanderbilt, so that is a power win. The sole loss came against Georgia Tech, and State are coming off a bye, and they are at home. Georgia Derby. I don't know if there's a name to it. I can't remember if there is a name to this rivalry, but who've you got between the Eagles and the Panthers?
See, it's hard because sometimes a bye can work against you. Don't always work in your favor, especially this early as well. You can kind of lose your rhythm. Like say, I don't know how to pronounce it. Christian Villiers.
He's the old Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh.
He's playing very well. He's having a good year, to be fair to him. Like I say, he's been pretty proficient.
But then JC French is a young freshman on the other side, or he's a sophomore. He started as a He might have started as a
Yeah.
two young quarterbacks.
Like I say, I like Freddie Brock. I think, yeah, give me the Panthers.
Oh, so
I'll
we're
say they're
going
well rested and ready to go.
Eagle. Oh, you're going for the Georgia State.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna go Georgia State as well. I think the home advantage will work here. And Southern have been up and down. They've looked good in the games against better teams, but then they've looked not so good against the teams they should be beating. So it's a bit tough for me. They're a bit too unpredictable right now. For the fifth week in a row, we got Florida State in here. They are on the road at SMU. And again, this is really intriguing now, right? They finally got the first win under their belt. They are technically still on paper a really good team. SMU are favored by 5.5 here. They're 3-1. They've beaten Nevada, Houston Christian, and of course they've just won the skillet back against TCU. The loss came against BYU in that ugly, clunky game, but they seem to have settled on Keaton Jennings now, so they're settled at quarterback. FSU 1-3, lost to Georgia Tech, Boston College, Memphis, just beaten Cal, but it was ugly as they're on the road now. Maybe it takes the pressure off them. Maybe that win's given them the confidence. I'm going to take Florida State here against all odds. I'm not going to get 4 losses in 5 again. They're not going to work for me. And SMU are new to the conference and technically on paper do not have as good a team. And I think they're going to suffer a hangover from the skillet. But what have you got, Rye?
Yeah. Give me FSU. I think their defense is finally gonna. We've seen how vulnerable the SMU defense is anyway, and they've got a mobile quarterback. I can see him getting a battering from this FSU defense.
And DJU's not going to be getting booed at home now. So I reckon, yeah, I'd give me Florida State. I think Florida State going to be good value there. And then the last one, I'm really intrigued to get your take on this one. Washington State again at Boise. So Washington are favored by 2.5. They're 4-0 on the season. They've beaten Portland State, Texas Tech, Washington in the Apple Cup, and that big 106-point slobber knocker against San Jose State. Boise are 2-1. They've beaten Portland State and Georgia Southern. The loss was a narrow defeat to number 8 Oregon. They're not coming off a bye though. They took that in week 3. We've got Wazoo at Boise here. We know how good Ashton Gianti is, but John Mattia continues to be great. Last I checked, Boise do struggle when it comes to the dual threats. They've struggled against the go-go in the past. And Washington are obviously technically the power team in this one, but Boise have Ashton Gianti. I'm interested to see where you want to go here, right?
Washington State, they just feel too one-dimensional. Matia's the leading rusher and the leading passer. That kind of has to come to an end at some point. Like I say, Madsen's doing okay. The numbers aren't terrible, but he's not hurting Boise right now. ESPN predictor gives it, wow, it's 61.7% in favor of Boise State. So they don't think it's going to be close.
Oh wow, the betting market has it 2.5 to Washington State. So there's some.
Yeah, I've got. Yeah. John, give me the Broncos. I think they caused the first big upset of the year on Washington State.
Yeah, I'm with you. I love Ashton Giante too much, and we've got him as top touchdown scorer in the nation. So I know he's got a lot already, but do with him getting a few more. I wouldn't be surprised if this ended up like 54-52 again or something like that. This could easily be an 80-90 point game.
Yeah.
And an absolute slobber knocker. So yeah, we've got those there. So that's everything in terms of the pick watch ones. Let's just go through a few of the others before we get out of here today. I was going to do a quarter season update, but we've had so much to go through in this. Caleb Johnson's got 685 rushing yards already this year. Just as a complete random quote there, but 700 yards pretty much in 4 games. What would that put him on pace for over a year? That would put him on pace for a 2,000-yard season, right?
Yep.
Wow. Wow. Do you reckon he could? Do you reckon he can keep that
No.
going?
Someone's
No.
going to stop him or he's going to slow down. He's
Yeah.
going to burn himself out.
Okie dokes. let's have a look. What have we got here? So we got Thursday night football, Army at Temple. Would assume Army are going to win that. I'll do that one there for you, Brent. Da, 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 da. So ranked teams: Miami of Florida are at home to Virginia Tech. Texas, number one seed, are at home to Miss State. Oh dear. Ohio State, number three, on the road to Michigan State. Kentucky on the road to number six, Ole Miss. Number eight, Oregon are away at UCLA. And then you got number nine, Penn State at home to number 19, Illinois. And you got number 10, Utah at home to Arizona. I'll stop with the top 10 there, but any upset alerts, any vibes from any of those games where you're seeing something that people might not expect?
Well, we've already mentioned Penn State at 9, haven't we?
You really think Illinois can upset them?
Yeah,
Okay, got that.
I really think about that.
Do you reckon Miss State could upset Texas? I didn't even mention that Florida game from earlier. I thought it was not worth mentioning,
No,
but God,
I
how
don't
bad,
think we can though.
how bad do they look? If they upset them, that's going to make the episode of all episodes next week.
Oh, another player has left UNLV.
Oh, the running back. Yeah,
Michael Allen has entered the portal.
um, he has indeed. Let's just go through the end of these. Minnesota on the road to number 12, Michigan. Wisconsin on the road to number 13, USC. South Alabama, the Jags on the road to number 14, LSU. Stanford on the road to number 17, Clemson. Iowa State ranked number 18 on the road to Houston. Number 20, Oklahoma State play number 23, Kansas State. Number 21, Oklahoma on the road to Auburn. BYU on the road to Baylor. Arkansas on the road to Texas A&M. And then we got the Boise State one there. Any Spidey sense? Oklahoma State, Kansas State. Do Kansas State bounce back?
Yes. I think Kansas State bounced back. I don't know.
Big
I'm
12
looking at
hard,
that.
isn't it?
I'm looking at Stanford, thinking Clemson getting a little bit of momentum behind them. It'd be the perfect time, wouldn't it?
Mhm.
Slam the door shut in their face.
I must admit, I had a tiny, teeny, tingly spider sense when that one went past. Um, oh, what else there? BYU and Baylor. I can't call these Big 12 ones at the minute. Like Baylor could just crush BYU now and wouldn't no one to bat an eyelid.
I think Chapin's year's over. I think Baylor's season's over.
Oh, he's injured, isn't he?
Yeah, I think he's done for the season. So I think
Oh no,
Baylor's
wait, that's
screwed.
no. He's at Miss State, isn't he?
Oh,
Chapin's at Miss State. I don't know who's at Baylor now. But yeah, Miss State's. Oh yeah, it's probably a good thing for Chapin that his season's done. But Oklahoma at Auburn. Mind you saying that, they're probably going to pick off Peyton. No, wait, they've dropped Peyton Thorne now, haven't they? Peyton Thorne's been benched.
Yeah.
But then the guy they bought in got picked off. They've thrown 7 picks in 2 games, Auburn have. It's so terrible. So yeah, Stanford, maybe we've got a sniff of an upset there. Okay, that's interesting. No, she didn't say Arizona at Utah. Have you lost all faith in Arizona now?
Yeah, I'm worried. I think Utah can seeing their defense now, they could completely shut down the Arizona offense.
Yeah, all right. Who else have we got? We've got Nebraska at Purdue. I mean, Nebraska bounced back there, sure. If they lose that, then they're boned. Like, coming back from losing to Purdue. NC State, we're at home to Northern Illinois. I don't like that game at all.
Kansas,
Oh, who are they playing this week?
Arizona State, I think.
Oh, no, they're playing TCU. Kansas play TCU.
Oh
Arizona
no,
State.
it's next week. I think Kansas, yeah.
I think Arizona State have got their bye,
Kansas
haven't they?
TCU is going to be a very interesting game.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I wouldn't pick a win. I don't know. I just literally don't know with any of these Big 12
I'll take
ones.
Kansas in that one.
Yeah. That would be where I'd lean, but probably more out of
ASU's on the bye.
bias. Yeah, so, that's good at least. 3-1 at the bye is no shame. They get a week off and then they'll play Kansas next week. We can see Colorado at UCF. That'll be fun. UCF probably going to run for about 500.
That could be after seeing what UCF came from, 3 scores down to beat TCU.
Yeah.
I could see a Knights win there.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything else standing out? I don't think so for this week. Oh, New Mexico at New Mexico State. New Mexico State look bad this year.
Yeah,
Like bad, bad. They have
very bad.
regressed entirely. So yeah, New Mexico could win that. I would not be surprised if they did. Cincy at Texas Tech. Air Force at Wyoming. Air Force look bad this year as well. So they need to win that for sure. Right. Anything else you want to say? 'Cause I think that is about everything for this week. Yeah. Anything else? I
No,
think we've
I
just
just want
about.
some more 100-point games.
Absolutely. We might get some more of those, but yeah, 120 points, 110 points, 106 points. It's been absolutely crazy. Like I say, a lot of defenders around the nation are going to be getting extra training in this week, and DCs are going to be on hot seats. But it's going to be a fun week. So if there's any questions anyone wants to ask quickly before we get out of here, please do so while I just go through all the closing bits. So next episodes, the main podcast, we're back on Saturday, 28th of September. It's the Seattle Seahawks Monday Night Football preview, obviously later in the week because it's not till Monday. And then myself and Ryan will be back next week, 2nd of October on the Wednesday. It'll be the week 5 review, the week 6 preview, and maybe we'll do some running back rankings to see where we're at with these guys because there's so many great ones out there. Don't forget with all the socials and everything. You can find us at Roar of the Lions UK on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, all that good sort of stuff there. Just type us in, you will find us. I do, before I get told off by him, Ash did mention a few bits on here, but he says is DJU retrievable as a prospect, or is he done and dusted now?
You can claw it back, but it's only going to be going from a UDFA to a day 3 backup. That's it. Yeah, that's as
Yeah.
far as it's going to go, really.
Okie dokes. Yeah, I think he's done. I think it's too far gone. Unless he brings them back to the point of winning the ACC this year, which would take them running the table for the rest of the year, then that would probably be it. I think they would be struggling. So yeah, he's redeemable for this year as a serviceable starting quarterback to get FSU a lot of wins, but not as a prospect for sure. He's also asked if we'll take a look at edges who are not like top 20 guys. So that is an assignment for another day. We will look at edges down the list there. Brent goes, who's the college receiver that should keep an eye on that is under the radar to finish? Who's an under the radar receiver for this draft? I mean, we did some the other week. I'd say Pat Bryant's definitely under the radar. That would be my answer. But I mean, you did mention Beck earlier. Was it Beck you mentioned earlier? There are some good guys out there.
I suppose, well, is he under the radar? Trey Harris.
I don't hear him mentioned that much, to be fair.
Like I say, why does no one ever talk about him? He's just coming off a game. Like you say, he's coming off a 225-yard game. Still miss receiver. He's a star. And no one talks about him. Like you say, he is going to be like a prop, like you say, a second or a third rounder.
Okay, there you go.
So,
Trey Harris at Ole Miss. I got Pat Bryant at Iowa. So yeah, there's a couple of guys there. Mark says, thanks guys, always fun. I appreciate it. I appreciate all of you who have enjoyed the show this evening and listened in. Again, if there's ever anything you want us to do in regards to college football, you know we will do it for you. We put our research and our time in. I think Matt is around and in the building, so I kind of will call this one. And then if we're still here, you just get to look at us for a few seconds longer. So thanks ever so much to everyone. Have a lovely day. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday, and we shall see you again on Saturday for the Seahawks preview. Just remains for me to thank Ryan, to thank Hank for his brief appearance. We shall see you again soon. One Pride.